So, I guess we'll get going with it. So, a lot of games played. I will rate them from amazing down to truly awful, unless I simply haven't played enough. There'll be a few of those games, I'm sure. Had Dave the Diver in this last time, because although it showed promise, couldn't help but feel I didn't really feel it all. You really did heavy load the stinkers, says Dark Young. Yeah, I wonder who can be held responsible for so many stinky games being on the channel. So, I wouldn't say I have any ironclad criteria for this. I will just go with how I felt about the game. So some games that you think are amazing might get hurt pretty badly in this just because I don't like them. So I might as well take it from the top, find my groove as we go along. So, not all of these games were played on stream, but I combed through all of the games I played throughout the year, whether or not they were on stream, and shoved them in here. On top of that, I swear I had another thought going into this, but it's immediately fallen out of my head. Yes, I may have missed one or two here and there, and if so, do yell at me, but I don't think I'll add them after this point. Should have also grabbed the old tier list to have a look at, but hey-ho, let's just get moving, shall we? 20 minutes till dawn. I don't know if I streamed this game or not. Surely I did. I was really enjoying this game. Around the start of the year, I was going on a bender of Vampire Survivor likes. Because I played Vampire Survivor for a weekly one-shot, I really didn't like the game, but I wanted to explore the genre, and this was, of all of them, the best one I played. What was it? Maybe it's tied best, but it is really good. Didn't feel as annoying as many of the other games in the genre, if we could even call it Vampire Survivors like. Bullet Heaven, I think, is the term that's going around, and that's a rather nice one. But no, the game is fairly gritty. I quite like its art style, its dark, moody nature. Extremely limited and small game, though. There's only a few maps. The enemy variety is terrible. There's apparently a big update coming for it, which has been delayed, so God knows. And yeah, TVW says visual style didn't suit me for sure. I can get that, but it suited me just fine, so I really thought that 20 Minutes Till Dawn was great. Has its shortcomings, and if they were overcome, I wouldn't have a problem putting up in amazing the aforementioned lack of maps, the lack of enemy variety. Actually, that one, since I'm not actually sure that I did stream it, surely it would be a great one to actually bring up on the Steam window, right? Show me 20 Minutes Till Dawn, please. Yes, that's the one. Here we go. New update coming to beta soon. Wasn't that announced forever ago? Well, what wasn't? I don't know when and how games got so glacial. So yeah, that Bullet Heaven through and through. Loads of enemies coming at you. But, I don't know. I just felt good about it. It's hard to articulate why I liked this one and really did not like Vampire Survivors. Often what I bring up about the genre is I don't like how inactive it is. I suppose that's one of the big things about this. Although you still don't do much but move around, at least in this game, you shoot and you reload. And there's a good selection of abilities and weapons and synergies you get with it, as you'd expect in the genre. I think that might actually be the main point. You could shoot, right? In most of these games, you just wander around, and I really don't like how passive that is. But I could shoot in 20 Minutes Till Dawn, and I guess that was enough for me to be happy. Thank you, and away you go. And I have no problem putting it up in great. I suppose you could put an argument for it just being good. The other lineups in great are probably going to be so great that it clouds that one out, but I'm still putting you there. Krebsig says, to be fair, the Vampire Survivor Castlevania DLC was one of the best DLCs of the year. Absolutely amazing amounts of content and love poured into it. I was just so turned off by the base offering of Vampire Survivor that I have no intention to look into it. That, and I'm not that big of a Castlevania fan. I like 1 and 3 and 64, and that's about it. I didn't even play the games once they went into Metroidvania stance. How about 7 Days to Die? Although I think the overall list here is going to be rather heavy on the bottom here, we're starting out with some games that really captivated me. Just how good was 7 Days to Die? Because no question in my mind, this game was fantastic. I suppose it also belongs up in great. Might seem a bit heathen to put it alongside 20 Minutes Till Dawn. Played this game for a few hours. I played this game for a few dozen hours. But 7 Days to Die although it's amazing, and I gushed many times about how it's amazing as I played it, does feel kinda limited. You do reach this point in the game, quite early, frankly, where you sustain yourself, and then beyond that, although there is a good variety of POIs, places of interest to go and investigate, the game really runs out of steam. It doesn't offer you much more. It's rather easy to get lots of powerful equipment, and then there's no bigger, more powerful thing to get, and there is no great big enemy to overcome. And once you solve blood moons, generally with a trench or a fine wire for your zombies to run across, there really runs out of things to do. I don't see the appeal in just building up my giant castle of golden walls, because there's nothing to overcome with that. If the game could just have another leg towards the end, where the world gets even more deadly and you have more reason to explore and gain more power, I'd probably put it into amazing if it had a bit more of a tail to the game, but currently it does not. Anyway, great game. 2 great games. Yes, excuse me, I've wanted to cough and splutter there. I heard that there's a mod that fixes that. Yes, I've heard. I believe it's called Darkness Falls. I was recommended that, but you know how it is. You play a lot of a game and then you're just done, right? I don't care how good this mod is. I don't want to look at this game for a while. I have been and I have gone. I've also been to a Highland Song. Played this one quite recently. It was a weekly one-shot, and it was okay. Certainly had a lot of charm going for it. They could easily thrust it up to good or great, but it was just okay. Because there really wasn't much to it. Just run back and forth, bit of jumping here and there whilst listening to Scottish lass screech in your ears about Baltaine. The plot went off the deep end. I had no idea, still have no idea what was going on there. I think the ultimate crippling thing to this poor girl's calves is that it really should never have been on a time limit. It's a game that seems to make you want to explore the beautiful highlands that it has crafted, but at the same time she's going on, oh, I need to go and over for my Baltaine in just a few days. Adds a measure of stress that is really not welcome in such a game. I don't tend to mind that. I love the time limit in Majora's Mask, but it just felt very ill-fitting in this one. Otherwise, looked good, sounded great, relatively novel in what it did, so yeah, I was happy enough with it. But was it good? Would I go to someone and say, hey, what's a good game? Would I say a Highland Song? No, because it was just okay. It made me want to hike, says Aurelia. Takes a lot for someone to want to hike out in the actual Highlands. If anything, this game underplayed just how much it rains up there. Here's a game I certainly didn't stream. Academia, School Simulator. It's a poor game. I don't really like it. Doesn't really have any teeth to it. It's just a very unfun version of Prison Simulator, which is already a game I think isn't very good. Maybe if it had leaned more into something like Canis Canem Edit or Bully, could have been more fun, but it was unenjoyable. I didn't enjoy building the schools, and once I had them, I didn't enjoy populating them, and once I had them populated, I really didn't enjoy having the kids run around. There was no point in this game where I thought, I'm having fun here. But it didn't have such flaws that I could really drag it down into terrible or truly awful. Ugh. Yeah, the store page managed to make that game look a lot more fun than it was, but nothing managed to make Alchemia look fun. That was a terrible experience. Alchemia, if you cast your mind back, was a punishment game I was subjected to, by AlphaGemo. It's a game about a book. You read the book. But the book is full of all these meta clues, which you must go and research in the real meat sphere yourself. So you'll find references to some 17th century paperwork that you must dig up and read, and it'll point towards further clues that you must unearth throughout the book. But in the end, if you just do a thing, then the game will produce you a thing, and then you go, oh, well, good on me, I've beaten the book. I essentially just skipped to the end, figured out through barely understanding some Russian what to do, and got the end. Hopefully AlphaGemo was extremely disappointed in the solution that I found there, but I really don't like these kind of games. I know he loves them. I actually went and watched a good chunk of his run of this. He spent 20, 30 hours looking into this game, figuring it all out, digging through Wikipedia for all the clues. If you like that kind of stuff, then Alchemia is going to be up in great or amazing for you. But me, I do not. Yeah, you gift this game to somebody, you've essentially gifted them a week's labor. Who wants to do that? Not me. Oh heavens, no, not me. I don't think I can really put it down into truly awful, even though I absolutely don't like the game. Truly awful is reserved for games that I really think are absolute stinkers. At least this one is going to have merit for a certain kind of person. Exactly, he gave me homework. Are you ever grateful to the person that gives you homework? Do you think, oh thanks, this is going to refine me as a person and develop my skills. I'm so glad I'm going to lose my Saturday to this. Well, maybe somebody out there does, but not I. Reading, Jake's mortal enemy. Reading more or less puts me to sleep. Once upon a time I was an avid reader, but as I grew more and more interested in interactive forms of entertainment, reading really fell off a cliff. I think the straw that broke the camel's back was having to read Great Expectations when I was a teenager. You know, when you're a teenager, your mind is on one thing. It is not on reading this giant, thick, boring book about Miss Havisham in a rotting wedding dress. Alright, games that can rot ancestors. I am in two minds. Do I put it down in poor terrible, or do I say that I haven't played enough? Because I'm certain I haven't played enough to really fairly assess this game. But I did play it for 2 hours, and I really, really did not enjoy those 2 hours. So Ancestors, if you need a refresher, is that monkey game. You run around as a monkey, you scratch and sniff with your partners, you chew on leaves, you try to copulate and grow your little colony, all the while running around and not being eaten by alligators. It certainly looked good, but was there any fun to be had in it? I couldn't find any fun. I think putting it down in terrible is a bit much, but it was a poor experience for me. The first, well, what do you even call it again? The new game experience, or the new player experience, was just revoltingly bad. I feel like the game failed to explain both how to do anything, or really why to do anything. But ultimately, I enjoyed no part of it, so I'm just going to shove you down into poor. Also, Merry Christmas to you as well, Sunaj. Although if you're spending your Christmas day tuning in for this, is anyone truly having a Merry Christmas? Sounds like a night out in Glasgow, something I've never experienced, actually. I am wise enough to get out of Ayrshire before the sun goes down most times. Right, Ape Escape. Did I enjoy you, Ape Escape? Pretty sure I beat you. It had some of those old 3D problems of navigating and jumping being like pulling your own teeth. But overall, it was a vibrant experience. Catching those monkeys felt a little bit cathartic. Yeah. Was it okay or was it good? James, I'm trying to rake my mind on that one. How could I be so cruel as to not put it into good? Yeah, good old early 3D teething issues. I'm tough to think on that one. No, if it truly was good, it would be evoking that little bit in my brain that says, ooh, good game, but Monkey Brain is not telling me that. But I'd be loath to put down such a charming early 3D game into the poorer below category. Right, save that for your Bubsies and the ilk. Just okay is being generous, says Dark Young. You're just showing too much pity for your fellow monkey kind. You all need drowned in the bathtub. Archipelago. So I didn't put the individual Archipelago games onto the list, but I did put Archipelago here because it is a game in itself. It just uses other games as a tool, and it is nothing short of amazing. The only real downside in Archipelago in my eyes is that it is a massive pain to set up. Hours, truly hours of my life spent setting up that Archipelago that I ran for Admittedly, 20 hours, so I suppose it wasn't all that bad. But yes, once it's running, it's so good. Take games you like, and you can choose which games, mix them together and have a whole new experience of them. It was just fantastic. So that'll be our first entry up in Amazing. Massive shout out to Fishlips for pointing me in the direction of it, and I suppose to, I don't know if it was ESA or Games Done Quick that showed it off and promoted it, but that also got the imagination flowing for it. So yes, off the top of my head, when we did Archipelago, it involved Mega Man, Slay the Spire, Noita, Doom, Mario, and somebody else. And it, yeah, Mystic Quest Legends. Yeah, that's not getting on the list here. But overall, so amazing. Which game worked best with Archipelago? Ooh, you know, I think Doom was amazing with Archipelago. Never before had I played Doom as a non-linear experience. But finding the weapons and the keys and indeed the levels themselves in other games was really good. You get excited, it's like, oh boy, I can go to Warren's now. I only have one of the keys, but maybe that'll do us just fine. And it doesn't, and then I go back to Warren's. Oh yeah, Archipelago, so good. It is a huge pain to set up, but if you're doing it as part of a multiplayer, I only did single player. If you do it as multiplayer, then you could just make someone else do all the setup. All you have to do is make sure that you have the games and the ROMs and whatnot, the emulators, if indeed you even need those, and then get going. Yeah, offload that onto somebody else. Practically my motto in life. Can we expect more Archipelagos in the future? Multiplayer, perhaps? Not only can we expect them, I can guarantee them. I do intend to run more Archipelagos, and I do intend to stir up a larger multiplayer experience for it, because one of the advantages with modern Archipelago is that if somebody can't make it through, oh god, the kids need picked up from band practice, or my wife is demanding that I spend time with her, or the oven is on fire, they can just stop, quit out, and unlock all their checks, so they're not going to drag the whole experience behind by dropping out. There's so many games that you try to play them as a group, but if one person can't commit, then everybody suffers. We've all had those, I don't know, big Warhammer battles or such, where somebody pulls out and then everything is just blah. Speaking of blah, what about a Ranger? It was cute with a fun idea, but it really didn't go anywhere with it, so it was just okay. A Ranger was a game where you play as this little urchin who's cast out of his or her village. I think it's a chick. But the whole thing is, you don't really move, you just slide the ground from under you, moving the world around you, and you use that to solve various puzzles. And the puzzles are ranging from clever to brain dead. I can't think of anything that really had me scratching my head for more than a few minutes in the game. But it just, man, I think towards the end also the game just really fell off. Like I said, it didn't go anywhere with what it was trying to do. There was no compelling story to be had, the writing wasn't all that great, and the puzzles were fine, so it is okay. I wouldn't put it poor or below, but it certainly doesn't scratch any fun itches. Can't believe good is void here. Jake's being very generous with the rankings so far. Oh, that's going to change. Also very generous. I think it's just we had some truly great games hitting out early. We're not going in chronological order, we're going in alphabetical order. Kind of. There are some games that, once I'd made the list, I then went, hang on, I played this, and this, and this, and then added a few more, and didn't bother to rearrange them. Awaria. Here's a game I did not stream. Awaria came out from the guy that did Helltaker, I believe it was called. Little puzzle-based game from, I think, a Polish guy who's trying to seduce all these demons. I mean, you cannot fault that guy for his motivations. He likes sharply dressed women, and frankly, who does not? He goes, there's not enough artwork, or indeed just, in general, sharply dressed women in the world, so let's make a game about it, and then get flooded with artwork. Also, let's make the game pretty good, with great visual styles, amazing music, and make it free. So yes, Helltaker was pretty good. I think it's Van Ripper. That's the guy, Van Ripper. What does he do after that? He makes another game in a very same or similar outfit. Hang on, that is definitely one we should bring up on Steam here, especially since I did not stream this game. Up we go. Awaria, here you are. Bring me that store page, please. Does this really show it off very much? You know what? This really does not do the game justice. You run around, there are a bunch of time things that you have to fix, so the generators keep failing, you need to go and grab the items to fix them. Some of the items need further manufactured, all the while spooky girls are trying to do you in. It's actually really very difficult. If you don't play it on easy mode, man, this is a tough game. But I would recommend it to everybody because it is free, and it is good, and it's also quite short. Man, I thought he'd show off the girls a bit more. Didn't he do that a lot more with Helltaker? Oh well, that is neither here nor there for how he wants to advertise his own game. Anyway, it was really good. But just how good was it? I don't think I'd put it up in great, but it was certainly good. It certainly just retread a lot of the old ground that we've seen in Helltaker. But I enjoyed my time. It didn't overstay its welcome. It sounded great, even though it had a very limited soundtrack. And you go around kissing ghost girls who are also dressed for work. So all is pretty good. All I can hear is, I'm Awaria. I'm gonna win. I don't think Wario will feature anywhere here, because I didn't play WarioWare this year. Did I? No. Maybe I forgot to add it for last year, though. The writer's barely disguised fetish. Oh, he's not hiding it at all. And instead of a recipe for pancakes in this game, you get the recipe for some weird little pudding cup things. Anyway, it was good. It's also something I played very recently. I think I only fired it up a few days ago. Beat the whole game in one sitting too. What in the world is this? It's some kind of arcade machine. I played a game called Badlands. It was okay, and nothing more or nothing less than okay. Badlands is essentially like off-road. You just drive around, although unlike off-road, there is some very surface-level combat involved to stun down your opponents. What I really liked about it was you had the standing driving mechanics in the cabinet itself. You have a foot down on the lever to accelerate and decelerate, and not only do you have these steering wheels, you have these completely uncatched steering wheels. I'm sure there's an actual term for it, but you can free spin them as much as you want. And in a game that is very fast-paced and requiring a lot of quick maneuver, I really appreciated that. It just felt good to play, at least in terms of controlling it. In terms of the game itself, it was way too short and didn't really offer much. But it was okay. Also have to consider this game is older than humanity, so leave it there where it belongs. Awaria is also free on Steam. Yeah, so this guy's approach to making a game is, from the two that we've seen, make a good short experience, make it free, and then have a soundtrack and possibly art book thing sold separately for much more than you would pay for a normal soundtrack and art book, but that's your way to show support, or so I believe. Anyway, he seems happy enough with it, so good on him. And I got to play a couple of games for free, so good on him. I don't think you have Battle Brothers in this list, says Pufu. Excellent point. That was what I was trying to say at the start and completely forgot. So, a game will be on this list if I played it this year and I did not already tier list it. I tier listed Battle Brothers last year, or so I believe. Beat Hazard 3. Beat Hazard 3 is a good game. I really like the Beat Hazard games. I would probably put this a bit higher if it wasn't called Beat Hazard 3. There's Beat Hazard 1, 2, and 3. I've played them all, and they have not really evolved in any way. It's the same game it was 15 years ago. And that is a good game, I just expected more out of number 3. The big thing that Beat Hazard 3 has is this giant... Okay, so Beat Hazard 3 is a game where you play music, either just a sound file or just have some active music in the background, so you could fire up a YouTube video and play this game, it'll still work to it. And it will generate enemy ships and asteroids for you to blow up. And they will attempt to attack you, and they're all moving to the beat of the music. It's an incredibly good experience. I played the first game a ton when it came out during the golden era of indie games on Steam. Highly recommend Beat Hazard, and 3 is the best of the lot. It's just not that much of an improvement. It's kind of like Dominion 6. So, okay, the game is great, but really you're not offering me much over Dominion's 5. So yeah, if it wasn't Beat Hazard 3 and it was just Beat Hazard, I would shove it up in great, maybe even amazing. But I expected more out of this game. And having expectations dashed is sometimes worse than just getting a bad game. Still good though, very much liked it. Yes, Avorion was on the last year's tier list. And I recall putting it up at amazing, because it was amazing. Boneraiser Minions was not. I don't think I can put it down in terrible, but I'm a little bit caught between hell and deep water here when it comes to Vampire Survivor clones. I don't like them. They're always going to be kneecapped on my rating because I just don't like them. I played this game for not very long and immediately went, okay, it's just Vampire Survivors. I'm not interested here. I guess it would be unfair of me to put it further, but I'm not going to put it in haven't played enough because I'm not going to play it more. Don't like Vampire Survivors, don't like just Vampire Survivor clones unless they can immediately captivate me, and you could not. Probably very unfair, frankly. Maybe I shouldn't have even put it here, I barely played the game. No, that's not true, I did fire it up a bit more afterwards. Sometimes when I play a game on stream and I immediately cast it aside, I do feel a little bit of guilt going, you know, did I really give that game a fair shake? So sometimes I come back to them, and sometimes I change my mind. But not often, and not for you. Broforce. So, Broforce, you run and you gun, and it's super, ultra, hyper machoed. Was it good or was it okay? It was a very frustrating experience. One of those, oh, you got lightly touched once, now you're dead, back you go. But it was very fast to get back into it. Let me have a little refresher by checking out its store page. Come back to me, Steam. Steam, tell me about Broforce. No, not Battle Brothers, although, Battle Brothers. Broforce. Must have been such a long time ago. I thought Avorion and Circle Empires were played roughly in the same time period. I did do Avorion this year. Didn't I do the multiplayer in February or so? But I already rated the game last year, and I'm not going to rate a game again unless I have very good reason to do so, like massive new update has changed the game such that it deserves a new rating, or if I put it in haven't played enough previously and then decided to play it some more. Yeah, I think I'd be underselling this game if I just put it in okay. Did feel like it kind of overstayed its welcome a bit towards the end, but it was fun, and how could I put a really fun game down in just okay? Yeah, I had my time with that game. Up you go. Broforce into good. Although Broforce alongside Beat Hazard and Awaria? Almost having second thoughts. Just almost. Reforge, is that the Battle Brother thing? I'm pretty done with Battle Brothers. Brotato. Yeah, didn't like Brotato. I did not stream Brotato, but again, it's another Vampire Survivor clone bullet heaven game. Almost feel bad putting it side by side with Boneraiser Minions. I do think Boneraiser Minions is worse. Then again, Brotato, very ugly game. Not just the style looking ugly, it's got really hideous but sterile UI. And it is just run around, make no decisions other than running around, whilst everything just auto-fires. That I really don't like. The music is kinda good, but if that's all I can say for the game, then it firmly belongs in poor. I did not like Brotato. Normally wouldn't have even touched the game, because hey, another Vampire Survivors clone, why would I bother? But it came highly recommended to me, and it was on a massive sale, complete with its new DLC, so I thought, okay, well, at least let's give it a chance. A Slay the Spire streamer I watch runs this game a lot, and he loves it. Me, I don't see the appeal at all. Avorion felt like a year of its own. One of the finest viewer reduction strats to ever grace Jake's channel. Now, I've very much enjoyed running Awaria, and I've been very tempted to run it again, to the point where I did fire up the game, set up another insane universe, played it for a few hours, but then I dropped it because there's nothing left to do. I've done everything in Awaria. That's one of the curses of doing a 100% perfect run of a game. Once you've done that, what else is there to do, even if you really enjoy the game? And I don't think there's going to be an Awaria 2 anytime soon because the developers are currently working on a game about managing a water park. I am extremely dubious that that is going to be successful, but more power to them. I hope they do a great job and it ends up being a success. Jake's streaming of it made me buy the game. Damn him. I hope you don't lose too much of your life to it. Not as much as I have. Awaria has turned out to be one of my most played games of all time. It entered the 4 figures of hours category, and that's a dangerous place to be. Well, I think only Killing Floor, RimWorld, and Europa are there. But no, it's not Jorbs, it's Baylor Lord. Picked up a lot of Slay the Spire off of him. Cats Organized Neatly is another okay game. It is quite infuriating, but in a way I should expect that from a puzzle game. It's meant to make your mind bend over in unpleasant ways to figure it out. So Cats Organized Neatly is a game where you have a box and you must fit tetranodes into it. But these Tetris shapes are actually cats, and that is quite cute. The game also keeps meowing, and it amuses me to think of a YouTube comment where someone said, I was watching this, my cat started going crazy hearing all the meowing. So I suppose that boosts it up a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's an okay game. Puzzle games... I find it very hard to rate puzzle games very highly or very lowly because they're... just a puzzle. Okay, sit down, do it. Do you feel better? I don't know, but it passed a bit of time. Very rare do I see a puzzle game that really activates the almonds. Not just in a, oh, I'm thinking hard about this kind of way, but, oh, I'm enjoying this thinking hard kind of way. So you're alright. I got no problem with the okay so far. I love cats and I hate puzzle games, says Rainy. I also love cats, but I wouldn't say I hate puzzle games. I would not say that I'm the puzzle master, though. I have long surrendered that title. Circle Empires. I'm a guy that doesn't really like RTS, but this game was quite good. Good enough to put in good? I mean, look at these great games it's sitting alongside. I feel so bad having Beat Hazard out of great, but if this was Beat Hazard as a series, it would definitely be higher up. As it stands, I'll just have to take my medicine and having you there. Circle Empires is pretty good. I played this as a weekly one-shot. I crushed it in record-breaking time. It was a very easy challenge. That or I'm just too damn good. I played the game some more. Yeah, maybe I should think more about how I played the game a bit more. It's actually quite frustrating a game to play. But I do like the fast-paced nature of it. The game is also brutally unfair on high difficulty. I played the game actually quite a lot in high difficulty settings, trying to suss it out. I suppose if you didn't see anything, I might have no idea what I'm talking about here. Can we bring back Steam and let's have a look at Circle Empires? I see no reason why we could not. Do I actually own the game? Fascinating. What, 7.5 hours in this game? That doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound like me. RTSs are all brutally unfair on high difficulty. Their way of compensating for the poor AI. Yeah, so in this game, you have a circle, and they have a circle. You go out and take other circles, build them up, take away their resources, and then use them to fight others, right? It doesn't do anything revolutionary, but I do just like the fast-paced nature of it. A round is been and done in just a few minutes. It's just very surface level. When you get things like unit stacking, or the particularly high-end units, the game does kind of break apart in a big way, because you just ball up your units and destroy things. I'll still keep it up in good, though, which is high praise for me for an RTS. I am not a big fan of the genre, but if this game managed to keep me stuck around for 7.5 hours and still be playing, and still look back on it fairly fondly, then it's a place well earned by it. Nowhere near deep enough in its genre to end up in great or amazing. Cobalt Core was also good. The reason I don't play more of it is because when it comes to games like this, if you're not as good as Slay the Spire or better, then I'm not going to be terribly interested in you. And in fact, once I had my couple hours of Cobalt Core, I just went crawling back to Slay the Spire. But it was a good game on its own, fairly cute, kind of Slay the Spire, FTL-like. But I like the game. I just didn't like it enough to want to play it over better games in the genre. Maybe someday I'll come back and play a bit more, but yes. Another well-earned entry into good. I said this whole entry was going to be very bottom-heavy, and so far I've been rating things rather generously. Could it be the Christmas spirit seeping in? Probably not. I've not even drank yet today. We all come crawling back to Slay the Spires, because it's so good. So very, very good. Just like FTL likes, Slay the Spire likes suffer from the same problem. Well, hardly a problem. You've just got to be good. Make good game, have good results. Make poor game, well, too bad. If you're just going to rip off another game, you better do it damn good. And there are quite a lot of rip-offs going around here. We've got the Slay the Spire rip-offs and a lot of Vampire Survivor rip-offs. Be better. Wish Cookie Clicker was better. How bad is Cookie Clicker? I think it's terrible, actually. Maybe I'm missing the part of my brain that makes me inherently feel good about click on thing and number go up. But there needs to be more to it than that. And there should be an incremental game or two in my list that will far outperform Cookie Clicker here. But I don't think I can put it down in truly awful because there's nothing awful about it. Just doesn't do anything for me. Just click, keep clicking. It's not visually stimulating. It is not interesting in a complex way. It's just click. And it always evokes unpleasant memories in my head of walking around the Paradox offices and seeing 1 in 5 people having full screen Cookie Clicker over on their other screen while at work. Some people, man. Yeah, no, not a fan of... Oh my goodness. I don't know if you can hear that, but my phone is meant to be silent. It's doing a very poor job of that. And in come all those Christmas wishes. Well, I do appreciate it, but I will appreciate it at a later date. Yeah, Cookie Clicker can stay down here and terrible. It's not very good. Not very good at all. How about Dave the Diver? So previously, I did have this game on, and I said I hadn't played it enough. How do I feel about it now? I feel very torn. I could put it in any of these 3 categories, maybe even any of these 4 categories. It's great in a lot of ways. It's pretty good in a lot of ways. It's just fine in a lot of ways. And it's pretty poor in a lot of ways. At no point is it terrible or awful. At no point is it amazing. The problem with Dave the Diver is that it does everything. Does just too much. It's overwhelming. The game is as wide as an ocean and as deep as a puddle. Doesn't focus on any one thing. The cooking is very surface level. The thing that ties the whole game together, though, is that it is gorgeous. One of the most gorgeous games I've played in recent times, and I don't mean high fidelity. I mean a really good, strong visual style that has been executed sublimely. So even though I did not particularly enjoy all the subsea mechanics, and the cooking wasn't very deep, and the managing of your cooking wasn't very deep, nothing was very deep, overall I played the game through and was charmed by it. So it's going to stay in good and no better. What about Lemmings 1 and 2, says Anzu. You're right, that was this year, and I did forget it. I missed it off my list. Alright, chalk that one up as something I forgot. It's easy to add something to this list, so maybe we can do that towards the end. So do remind me about that towards the end. Dave gets another DLC next year, so there'll be even more stuff. Yeah, not interested. I have had my fill of Dave the Diver. I don't want to touch the game again. I just want to look back on it and remember it relatively fondly. It also teaches us a thing or two, right? Focus on a few things and do them well. I think if they just refined and done fewer things, the game could have been great or amazing. But maybe the fact that it did so many things is why it's good for so many people. Mass appeal, perhaps? Anyway, I'm just kind of glad we got a game with a big, fat, ugly bastard as our protagonist. Nowhere near enough of those. Deity Empires. Strong argument for haven't played enough, but couldn't you say that about any strategy game that you haven't put several dozen hours into? It was a really ugly looking Civilizations game. You know what else is a really ugly looking Civilization games? Dominions. And that goes right up in amazing. At no point did Deity Empires captivate me enough to ever want to play more of it. I did quite like the dungeon diving element of the game that went together with its 4Xing. But no, man, just no. Unpleasant to play, unpleasant to look at. Down you go. I would love to see more Dominions, says Pi, as would I. The randomizer for Dominions started working, and I ran a few of them, but then I swear something came out of nowhere and just destroyed all the Dominions I was doing. Was it 7 Days to Die? I feel like it was. Because I was poised and ready to sacrifice most of my time to Dominions going forward. But then I got distracted, and I swear it was 7 Days to Die. Yeah, 7 Days slayed Dominions. Well, there's a big difference there. 7 Days to Die spent itself slaying Dominions. But Dominions is immortal, and Dominions will be back in a season. Because yes, I love me Dominions, and I love it even more when I can randomize it. Rings of Saturn. I did not enjoy Delta V ring. That is Delta V Rings of Saturn, right? I'm quite certain. Yeah, there's over 100 games here. I have to work a little bit on remembering what each of them are. What? Rings of Saturn. Yes, that is Delta V. And oh god, I did pay for this game. This game was added as a long play candidate. I believe it was voted on and failed, but one of my better kept secrets is when a long play game fails, sometimes I just get it and play it. Sometimes on stream, sometimes not. And this game seemed interesting enough to me that I wanted to go and see what I had missed out on. And what I'd missed out on was a fairly unpleasant experience, so in retrospect, very glad this one did not win. The main problem for this game is that whilst flying around in space acquiring resources, in order to get stronger to acquire more resources, especially in an economic situation, rather than just a kill everyone situation, is that you had to balance that experience with managing your momentum. And that is not fun in any way, shape, or form for me. So yes, you grind up your asteroids for resources, but then you've got to manage moving in to grab it all. It was not enjoyable, not at all. Manage your acceleration, deceleration, match the movement of that stuff. I did not like that one bit, so no, thank goodness Rings of Saturn did not win. Keep it down in poor. I didn't really dig into anything truly terrible or awful, so it does not go further down. What is pretty terrible is Disgaea 6. I had played this game before. I actually got this game on release for the PlayStation 4. Yeah, 4. I even got the game in Japanese. I thought, oh boy, not only do I get to play a Disgaea game, I get to brush up on my Japanese playing it. Well, the Japanese used in Disgaea is a bit beyond my power level. But the game itself was pretty bad. It had made a transition to 3D, and that transition was not very welcome. I suppose I never streamed Disgaea 6. Have I even streamed a Disgaea game at all? I suppose if you're unfamiliar with the series, then it couldn't help to have a look-see here. So, it's a strategy RPG. It's also incredibly and unashamedly anime. You play as a lot of quirky, hellish characters, you move around on the strategic map, and you just brutalize people. It's more of a tactics map, I suppose. The problem with Disgaea 6... Now, I love the Disgaea series. Oh, I love it so much. But Disgaea 6... so many games fall apart at number 6. Dynasty Warriors as well. This one takes a very large cast of characters that you can use, and trims down that cast, one that's been built up along the years, and they just cut out so many of the characters, probably because in the transition to 3D, they could only be arsed making 3D characters for so many of them. It also introduced auto-battling into the game, which sounds like a good way to cut out the grind in an extremely grind-heavy game, but in reality, it just made everything feel completely senseless, because you just reach a point and then grind until you're as strong as possible, and everything loses all meaning. What also loses meaning are the stats in the game. Disgaea has already been a game of big number, and what they did was, people like our big numbers, let's make them even bigger. So you end up with several quintillion stats that are just beyond comprehension in a game where you already get millions and billions of stat points. So very hard to follow, very hard to swallow, and the characters were not particularly interesting either. When it comes to the Disgaea series, I highly recommend Disgaea 1, Disgaea 5, and Disgaea 7. Disgaea 5 is the pinnacle of the genre. Disgaea 1 is where it all started and has the only touching plot in the whole series. And Disgaea 7 is the most recent. They did refine 3D modeling, and mechanically it's a bit better than 5. But yes, I'm a huge fan of Disgaea, which is probably why I'm never streaming it. It's a game I like to lay in the darkness for days on end, enjoying myself. I'd like to transfer those quintillion hit points to other games. Yeah, wouldn't we just? Put it onto my pretender in Dominions. I don't think I can put Disgaea 6 in truly awful. It does disgrace the series, I suppose, but that's not quite enough. You stay down in terrible for now. Dominion 6, There's no way Dominion 6 wasn't rated last year. Dominion 6 must have come out this year then. Yeah, I definitely haven't played enough Dominions. Tell me, Steam, how much Dominions have I played? Dominions 5, 678 hours. Dominions 4, 2 hours. Dominion 6, only 130. That number must go up. I must play more. Now, this is tough. Dominions, overall, is amazing. I can't believe I got into it. It was a hard struggle to get into it. But once I did, I realized that I was playing the greatest strategy game that had ever been made, even better than Sengoku Rants. But I am knocking Beat Hazard down a level of where it belongs because it doesn't do much for the series. And I have knocked Disgaea down because of the damage it did to the series. Surely Dominion 6 should also be brought down, because whilst it is a Dominions game, it does precious little that Dominions 5 does not already do. Dominion 6 feels like a free patch or maybe a small DLC for Dominions 5. Sure, it looks the same, but nobody plays Dominions for the looks. Mechanically, it did not have any big revolutions. A huge thing that Dominions 5 did over 4 was change the turn-based battles. They're still essentially turn-based, but you don't feel it anymore because everything's happening simultaneously. Simultaneous turn-based battles? Actually, yes. You know the rent on Swedish garages, don't I just? I think the thing is, although Dominion 6 does not elevate the series much, it's the best in the series, but it doesn't elevate much from 5. Dominions is so good overall that it's essentially getting downgraded from up here down to amazing. Dominions is amazing. If you can see past the fact that the game looks like fossilized arse, then you are in for the greatest strategy experience you will ever get. Step aside Gary Grigsby's War in the East and the West. This is just better. Although that's not fair, that's more of a wargaming. This is just great strategy. On top of everything else, Dominion 6 now has a randomizer, fan-made, but I'm still enjoying it. So I can make random nations and pit them against each other, and when I sit down to play Dominions, the whole day falls away, because it is amazing. Love you, Dominions. I suppose I should thank longtime community member Scipio Mercenary for subjecting me to enough Dominions until I enjoyed it. So, thanks, I guess. Dominion 6 does not deserve amazing. It brings so little over 5. A good argument, but not a good enough argument. How about Dragon's Dogma? Whoa, 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 you do not deserve to be down there. Damn, I had some images for Dragon's Dogma. How could they have gone away from me? Come back to me, Dragon's Dogma. Show me my beloved collection of screenshots for this game. There we go. In a game where I can make this, it's never really going to fall far down below on my tier list rankings. This is Ugly Bastard, and he was my main character in Dragon's Dogma, which has got the best character creation I've ever seen in a game. And he had his fun adventures with... No, not you. Oh man, where's the actual shot? Ah yes, here we go. This is Ugly Bastard together with Rent Boy. Notably, I did not stream this game. I very much enjoyed it in my own time. The apprehension and concern on Rent Boy's face is entirely warranted. They went through some horrible times together. What I'm getting at is that I massively enjoyed Dragon's Dogma. Was it great or was it amazing? I haven't decided yet, so I'm going to have to talk that through in my head here. So I played Dragon's Dogma 1 on stream some years ago. It won the long play vote, and I didn't complete it because I did not enjoy the experience. I could taste the greatness, right? Somebody had put some very delicious sour plum cherries into this pastry, but they had made the pastry out of ass and fetch quests and escort missions. So I was not willing to chew my way through the entire pastry. Dragon's Dogma 2 had actually similar concerns, but it was so much better that I was willing to choke through all the sawdust and turds. The main quest in Dragon's Dogma is awful. So you don't play it for that. You play it for going on your little Rent Boy adventures with Ugly Bastard, and I enjoyed it oh so much. Going around and just encountering the beasts in the wild, destroying them whilst your compatriots shout, "They ill like fire, Chosen," is just really an experience in itself. I played the game for 80 hours and then I stopped. I stopped because I had beaten the game and I wanted to go back and play some more. However, playing some more means I would have to do the main quest again, and the main quest was so bad I didn't actually want to play the game ever again if I had to go through it. I really wanted to go to the end times and play through that again, but that was not an option. Also has one of those forced single save scenarios, and I played the game when it was newly out. It had its fair share of bugs and issues, which was very frustrating at times. And I have talked myself out of putting this game up in Amazing, but I do strongly recommend it, and I have no problem with it standing side by side with 7 Days to Die. They're ilk ill like fire and ice both, yes. Oh, so unashamedly full of itself, that game, but I really like it. Also one of the games where just play it as you like. In the end, I'm pretty sure I played and mastered all of the vocations that you get in the game, and some were great and some were awful. And oftentimes I play as one and think it's great, but I wish I had the other thing. What did I like the most? Thief, Sorcerer, and Mage. I never really liked the whole hacky-slashy of being a fighter or a warrior, but Thief was great. Just love stealing things. Anyway, truly great experience, highly recommend it. Don't even feel bad for shelling out the, what was it, 60 or 70 pounds on release for this game twice, because this time last year a community member won the marble races somehow and asked for the Dragon's Dogma pre-order as their prize. So congratulations, Kaiser. Hope you got as much fun out of that game as I did, because I got a ton of fun out of it. Friendly is in to say, I'm happy to see Broforce. Merry Christmas again, Jake. Yes, we exchanged Christmas pleasantries about 13 hours ago, but no problem doing so again. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good dungeon munchie. You are a difficult game to rate, but you're among many other difficult games to rate. So, Dungeon Munchies. Why don't we have another little recap on this one, because it was a weird one, to be sure. Hold that phone. I need to get rid of all of my ugly bastard pictures there. ub3.jpg, away you go. And show us the Dungeon Munchies. This game was not really what I expected it to be, although I'm not entirely sure what I was expecting. Memes, I suppose, and it certainly delivered on that front. Maybe if I were Chinese, I would have gotten more of it. But this game kind of tried to do everything and didn't do any of it particularly well. The artwork was rather nice. Nice pixel work, nice sprite work in the game. It was a soft Metroidvania, so you gained new abilities through cooking to traverse the world, but it was extremely linear. There were precious few moments where you could go back and take any sidetracking, and when you did, your rewards were paltry. The cooking was not particularly deep, it was just choose your upgrades that you want. And the fights, use whatever works. Also, you have 100 different things to your arsenal, so you can make synergies. I think we ended up doing a lot of ghost summoning with our scythe, I honestly can't remember. But the plot was bonkers. The world is dying, so we must go away, but no, don't go away. What about the alternate reality? What about the portal? What about this strange anomaly that's turning everything into flesh goo? Why are all the creatures talking? Why can fruit and vegetables talk? Why is this ice cream cone a poop? This game couldn't decide at all what it wanted to be. I feel like it's just a big joke that got out of hand. I did beat the game, and my good friend Lucky is actively running the game, and I'm pretty sure he's just as confused as I was. So I beat the game, and I did not really like it. It was not very pleasant to play, but I feel like I just can't put it down here. It was charming. I liked the look of it. I kind of like the sound of it. It was just too bizarre to hate. But I'm putting it here anyway. It's pretty poor. Could put it in poor, could put it in okay, but ultimately I don't have many good things to say about it, do I? I was charmed, but oh my, I'm not putting it next to Ancestors and Boneraiser Minions, and I'm certainly not putting it next to Brotato. Alright, get out of there. Begrudging. There you go, saved at the last second. You've gone soft with age. The art is underwhelming. No, I quite liked it, but I'm a sucker for pixel art that actually looks good. I mean, you're not going to reach SNK Metal Slug levels of gorgeous in a game like Dungeon Munchies. Actually, it doesn't deserve to be down here in the poor zone. Eastward deserves to be down in the poor zone. I have very little patience for games that substitute enjoyable gameplay with being quirky. And that's exactly what Eastward did. This is a game that I played in my own time, and I just did not enjoy it at all. There's precious little gameplay to it, kind of light action RPG, wandering around smacking things with a frying pan as a tall, scruffy mute, whilst this androgynous child follows you around. And there's a lot of roaming around and not a lot of having fun in the game, so it was pretty poor. Didn't have hallmarks for being terrible or truly awful, but there was nothing to enjoy it. In the end, I ended up dropping the game and then watching more of the game just on someone else's playthrough, and still didn't see anything worth coming back to, so no. Which is a shame, because the whole reason I picked up Eastward was because it looked gorgeous. At least the game looked gorgeous when I saw it on the store page. Let's see if I can grab it here. Maybe gorgeous. No, come on, that looks gorgeous. But when the whole game's in motion, it doesn't quite have the same nice appeal that this does. I don't know how to explain it, but sometimes a still screenshot makes the game look better than seeing it in motion. There's also the jarring discrepancy between the UI and the game world itself that always catches me out and makes me feel uncomfortable. Look at this. Does this match at all with the rest of the game? It absolutely does not. And I'm not an art-focused individual. Yeah, and just, you know, you're meeting loads of quirky characters, frankly too many of them. None of them you end up really caring about. It's all very fleeting. No, I did not like this game. I don't want to look at this anymore. Go away, Eastward. Gingawa. Says I only played half an hour of it. It certainly felt like longer than that. Right, away you go, Steam window, and down you go in poor Eastward. Endwar! Oh my. So Endwar was, if I recall, a punishment game I was made to play, where you give your instructions over a microphone. Is that actually correct? I want to be sure that I'm right about that one, because I'm actually unsure. Let me check. Endwar. Tom Clancy's Endwar. Yes, that's the one. I played that back in June. Alright, get out of here. Oh boy. Yeah, it wasn't very good. But was it very bad? It was frustrating giving orders over microphone, but it was also kind of cool. If I had played Endwar 20 years ago, I would probably be, maybe not obsessed with it, but I'd have certainly fonder memories of it. I have a hard time judging older games by the standards of today. Then again, I see the Ubisoft logo and I immediately start thinking, ugh. Certainly couldn't put it down in terrible and truly awful, which is remaining quite unpopulated right now. I'm certain that's going to change. Was it really poor, though? That's a tough one, right? It was a very cheeky game. I kind of liked the whole tongue-in-cheek Command and Conquer-esque, especially with the Russians, right? Oh, and the Americans just going ham on it. It was okay. I can be forgiving for this game, right? It's not Lifeline. It's not actively pulling your teeth out levels of pain with the voice controls, and it did have backup controls. It's also not my genre, so I'm hard-pressed to be too harsh on it. It sounds like it's just okay, which is more than Ubisoft deserves. Yeah, well, sometimes I feel for the people under Ubisoft. Was Endwar a good punishment game? Well, we almost must fall back on the stipulations for a good punishment game. My beloved VIP, Excravit. Why don't you remind the whole chat how you and Dark Young are enjoying those VIP badges, whilst I consider if Endwar was a good punishment game or not. A good punishment game should be extremely difficult, punishing to play, or punishing to watch. And it was only slightly punishing to play because of the voice controls. Otherwise, was it that difficult? I seem to recall having immense difficulty storming a place at night. But I am bad at RTS, so I'm ill-posed to judge. They look good. I'll try to retain it in Season 2. Yes, good luck with that. No, probably not a great punishment game, but I've rated my punishment games separately. VIP was justly earned. The patricians don't seem to agree. Escape Academy. Now, I played a few Escape games in the past year or two. Which one was Escape Academy? Because it was either the extremely good one or the pretty lackluster one. This Escape Academy was the great one. Really, really enjoyed Escape Academies. I like escape rooms. I like them a lot. I do them in real life. Well, when I get the opportunity to do so. Finding a good video game escape room sounds like it would be so easy, but I played a few and a lot of them ended up being really lackluster. Escape Academy was not. Not only did it have really good escape rooms with fun mind-bending puzzles to sort out, it also had a more overarching story to it, which I enjoyed going through. And you solve a puzzle only to find that you should have solved it this other way to make this other advancement, and that makes the brain click in all those cozy, I am smart kind of feelings. It was great, and I got no problem assigning it thusly. Escape Academy was the one-shot that ended up on a boat. Was it on a boat? I don't remember that, but what do I know? Oh, you tried Alchemia. I love the idea, but damn, it was just frustrating. Yeah, I share the frustration and not the love of the idea. Factory Town and Factory Town Idols. Oh, funny little combination here. I seem to recall putting Factory Town down as a long play candidate, and it failed miserably. But I did want to check it out, right? It's kind of a city builder, kind of an automation game. It's got little choo-choo trains. What's not to like? Well, overall, just the game. I didn't like it at all. It was functional, but at no point were the functions in any way enjoyable. And those little crummy, low-fidelity characters running around, I felt no real desire to build anything for them. So I kind of felt like the game felt like homework. The game was not enjoyable at all. But what about its idle spin-off? Incremental games, clicker games, idle games, whatever you want to call them, as I mentioned with Cookie Clicker, is not something I inherently get joy out of, but I'm always interested if they do more with it. Was more done with Factory Town Idle? Yes, because at no point did it feel like I was just playing a clicker game or an idle game. I was playing a logistics game, a much better logistics game than the main game. So you start out with your usual, make this so you can make more of that, and it gets you more of your resource to pour into something else. That's all well and good. But you end up setting up production chains within the idle incremental stuff that all work together in a glorious synergy. And eventually you build up a town which is just brilliant, synergistic, rich, populous, and you constantly have happiness to balance as well, so you can't just get lots of resource. You also want people to be happy to give you more of another abstract resource. And once you have done that, the game then blossoms like a beautiful flower to say, well, wasn't that fun? You've built one very good town, build 8 more and interlink their logistics. And at that point, I thought, okay, I've had enough. It was good, but with these kind of games, there are moments when I have to stop myself because I know I'm not going to do anything else for the rest of the week if I tuck any further in. It was a good experience. I have a very hard time putting an incremental game any higher than that because I just think inherently they're not that great. All right, scratching my bum can be a fun way to pass a few minutes, but I'm not going to put it up into the highlight of my day just because it was a really good itch. Okay, I'm certain I could have come up with a better analogy than that, but, well, Fears to Fathom is truly not bad enough to be that awful. Or is it? Yes, it is. No, it's not. I don't know. Fears to Fathom was one of the spooky games that we had in our week of October spooky games. And Fears to Fathom, the one we played, was you're just a kid in a house and someone's trying to break in. And nothing happens. And you eat an entire tray of lasagna. I'm not sure it was awful enough to be truly awful, because there was very little to the game, but it just wasn't any good. It didn't do anything. I thought it built suspense kind of well, and that's probably the reason I'm keeping it out of truly awful, but it just didn't do anything with it. It was kind of worse than a Shillah's Art, although we might be putting that to test later on. Could have been good. But it wasn't. I suppose also it wasted our time. And you're playing as this lazy kid that wakes up in the middle of the night, eats the entire tray of lasagna, and goes back to bed. Perhaps I'm just jealous of the experience he has. What's that at the top? I'm not wearing my glasses. Archipelago and Dominion 6. Don't worry, I'll run through every game on this list when we reach the end. Oh yeah, barehanded lasagna eating as well. Ugh. Okay, Frostpunk 2. There was a comment I heard which made me snigger, and it was, I never imagined in a year with Frostpunk 2's release, Jake's Game of the Year would be other game. Frostpunk 2 is a good game. I will happily put it over in good. It's functional, it's quite enjoyable, looks pretty good, although it kind of runs like bum, and it's... yeah, I have a hard time faulting the game. I have a very easy time faulting the name. This should never have been called Frostpunk 2. When you pick up Dragon's Dogma 2, or Doom 2, or Dominions 2, or Beat Hazard 2, you are expecting a sequel very much in the vein of the series that you're getting. When you pick up Frostpunk 2, you're no longer getting the wonderful survival city builder experience that you had in Frostpunk 1. You're getting civilization in snow. I think a lot of the game's messaging and its tone and expectations were severely mishandled, especially the fact that they were still using the tagline, "The city must survive." In Frostpunk 2, survival is no longer the question. Frostpunk 2 is a society builder. It's not a great one at that, to be honest. This game was nominated, I think, on the Steam Awards or some awards for soundtrack, and even the soundtrack was nowhere near as good as the first game. Yes, the game is completely crippled by the fact that it is compared to Frostpunk 1, which was lightning in a bottle. I love Frostpunk 1, still love Frostpunk 1, and I love it even more after playing Frostpunk 2. I can't detract away from the fact that Frostpunk 2 is still good. It's just like most good experiences, it's made worse by being compared to something better. So I'm not going to bring it down just because I'm disappointed. If anything, Frostpunk 2 was the worst thing for me that it could have been. Obviously, the best case scenario is just like Frostpunk 1. It's amazing. I play a lot of it. I have a great time with it. And perhaps on a more cynical level, it's great for the channel, like Frostpunk 1 was. I don't tend to care about those kinds of things, but that would have been the case. If it were terrible, it also would have been fun to disassemble just why it is so bad, maybe look at it and laugh at it and play it with the expectation of enjoying a punishment game. The worst thing it could have been was alright to good. There's not really much to say on top of that. I wonder how long the game will survive, because there's a plan. There is a sold plan for the game. They sold expansion passes for this, for I believe 3 expansions, and they have, I think, 2.5 years roadmapped out for the game. But is anyone still playing this game? Is anyone still going to be playing this game? Because I ran the game twice, and I was done with it. I did not and still do not want to play any more Frostpunk 2. And again, not because it's a bad game, but because it's not a good enough game. It's also very long compared to Frostpunk 1 in terms of doing a run-through of it. I can do a run in Frostpunk 1 in anything from 3 to 8 hours, depending on the challenge. In this one, it just goes on and bloody on. So I got no real reason to come back into it. It released with modding support, kind of. The modding support was in a beta, and it was really tricky. I read through the documentation for doing modding in Frostpunk 2, and it went over my head. I've got patience for this kind of stuff, but it was not released in a state that anybody could reasonably want to work with it, their Frost kit. So naturally it comes out and there's no real mods for it, because who would want to work with that? Maybe that's changed now, but I don't care, because I've played the game and don't want to come back. That's a lot to say about a game that's just here in the good category, but let's face it, I did a ton of Frostpunk 1, and to see you almost languishing here feels quite bad. If you were down here, at least it would be funny, haha. That's a lot of complaints for a good. Again, because these complaints are comparing it to a much better thing, right? If you play Slay the Spire and you get the boot, you should be thinking, oh boy, I'm going to get a little bit of extra damage and I'll be able to deal with Nemesis. But you're not thinking that, you're thinking, why couldn't I have gotten Meat on the Bone or Tungsten Rod or Tori? Why do I have to get this crappy relic? It's not that crappy, it's just nowhere near as good as your alternatives. Frostpunk 2 is the boot. Alright, this is awful. Gas Station Simulator. I've got very low patience for these kinds of chore games that try to show themselves off as being funny, quirky, haha, meme-filled. I was recommended Gas Station Simulator. I don't know how or why. Long play, YouTube comment, I don't know. Believe it or not, I read all those asinine comments. And if they have some big recommendations, oftentimes I go for them, and I somewhat regret checking this one out. Gas Station Simulator is one of those busy work games, and none of the busy work is fun. The premise is kind of good, right? You go off into the Dust Bowl, and there's this rundown old shack, and you turn it into a petrol station. Huzzah! People come in, they expect you to pump their petrol, they're going to buy some snacks and some booze, you take the money, and you renovate your petrol station. Everything sounds pretty good, but none of it really comes together. Everything is busy work. Click on the hose, click it into the person's car, fill it up, use this little timing mini game to time it just right to give them exactly the amount they want so they give you an extra tip. And they're going to buy these things, so you have to do these horrible controls for picking things up and scanning them, but do it quickly now because everything's coming along the conveyor belt. And then, oh, they've left a mess on the floor and the toilet. Grab your brooms, scrape it up, mop it up. And then, oh, you need to do paint work on the outside, and it's painful to do so. And then there's this kid that comes along, vandalizes your store. How do you deal with him? You throw things at him. So I was throwing tires and hoods of cars onto the kid, so he runs away. It was such a mess of a game. At no point was it enjoyable. Which is a shame because the premise is pretty good. And Steam is getting flooded with these. Run your own gas station, run your own washing up place, run your own clothes shop. And they just all end up like this. I really can't stand it because you could make a good fun game out of this. But all you're doing is stringing busy work together. But what I find ultimately baffling is people love this stuff. The reviews for this and similar games are all just, haha, so much fun. I hit kid with ball and now he runs away. What are people getting out of this experience? I will not know, but I will know that to me, it is really just awful. I can't read this game. What are you called? Something in Miserable Survivors. Glory and Miserable Survivors DX. I better not put that one on Steam, for it is an erotic game. It's not terribly erotic, it's one of those take damage and your clothes fall off kind of affair. But I was playing this as part of my checking out more bullet heaven games, and like all of them, it's not very good. How not very good is it? Is it poor or is it terrible? Even for this genre, it was pretty terrible. It's just very lazy, Vampire Survivor clone, except it's more based on defending a keep rather than defending yourself, although you can certainly die. And then, of course, all the erotic scenes are locked behind dying in different ways. Yes, my clothes always dropping off when I take damage. Very much one of those games. Yeah, it is just a lazy Vampire Survivor clone, and then they slap anime titties on it to sell the game. I guess it worked. I bought it, but my vast catalogue of erotic games is... my cup floweth over. Although I don't tend to put them onto this one. Frankly, how did you get through? I know, because you were on my Steam replay feature, and that's how I sourced most of this. How about Glover? Maybe I can outsource some memory on this game. Did I like Glover? I recall having some painful moments with Glover, but once the controls clicked with it, it wasn't all that bad, right? I know you don't like Glover, Blobber. Did I like Glover? I thought you hated it. How long ago did I play Glover? I get constantly reminded on Glover because on my Twitch page it's always there as I think the second highest clip. Glover, Glover, Glover. 5 hours and 11 minutes of Glover. I try and remember playing through this game. Bouncing around the ball, timing the bounces, slapping the ball and recatching it. I seem to recall having to go up a very tall castle around the outside and constantly losing my ball. I remember the payout good times. No. I remember not particularly liking you. I don't think you're quite down in Disgaea and Miserable Survivors territory. It suffers a lot from that early 3D control stuff. Oh god, I'm suddenly remembering the early levels and the tutorial part of it. Oh boy. If you can't remember, it certainly isn't good. Oh, we far know that it wasn't a good experience. I'll keep you down in poor. Certainly wouldn't recommend you to anyone unless I wanted to have some good laughs. Gone Home. Gone Home I do remember. It was terrible. I don't quite think it was truly awful. Again, truly awful has to be painfully bad. And there are painfully bad games around here. Gone Home was bad, but not to the point of pain. It was just really boring. wander around a house, get that 90s nostalgia member berries out to the wazoo, and then read the teen drama of some girl, having them voiced directly into my skull. That was very unpleasant. I'm sure there were puzzles to sort out in the house, but I don't really recall having anything that makes me go, ooh, look at that. There was a wall that opened up to some place under the stairs, and I think I went into the attic and something. Oh yeah, I certainly remember how that one went down. Didn't I try and speedrun it since I was done with the game? Anyway, it was really quite bad. Game of the A 2013 for all the game's journos. Yes, well, if that wasn't enough to raise eyebrows about how games journalism works, I think you might be beyond help. So leave Gone Home down there in Terrible and speak no more of it. Actually, maybe we will be speaking more about Terrible, because here's Graveyard Keeper. Oh boy, I can't believe I had the stamina to get through this game and beat it. It won the long play vote, and the game had such a shining bit of brilliance to it. Digging up graves, preparing bodies, putting them in the ground, giving them lovely little gravestones and ornaments, and doing my sermons was so good. I loved that in Graveyard Keeper. But it had that Dave the Diver problem if it just couldn't let that be. It couldn't just have this one good, solid experience. It had to throw everything in the kitchen sink at the game. So you're running around doing God knows how much farming and aviary and berry picking, impressing the locals, grinding ungodly amounts of money, having to see people on their horrible schedules. Oh, you can only deal with a whore on Thursdays, but her thing is interlinked with someone that you can only see on Friday, so you gotta deal with the astronomer on Friday, and then wait till the next Thursday to go and see the whore. Oh, Lord, what a... truly horrible, horrible experience. Just because... I think I stuck with it because it was so malignantly horrible as it spread throughout the game, because managing your graveyard and your church was 80% of the game early on. But as more and more happened, it became 60%, and then 20%, and then 5% of the game. And before you know it, I'm running around doing so much, I can only barely get to my church in time for sermon, and by that time, I'm so jaded I'm not enjoying it anymore. What a terror... Was it actually horrible? That's the real question. I actually think it is. It was truly awful. Astonishing that I actually ended up beating the game, but that was more out of spite than anything else. It's made all the worse because it had a good thing that it just couldn't let be good. Oh, man. Didn't I have those unskippable flashback cutscenes again? Oh, and I wanted to run my tavern, but the tavern ended up being no fun. Oh my god. The more I think about it, the angrier I'm getting at the... Not just the time of my life I wasted on this game, but just the missed opportunity. Oh, I was so mad with that game. There was a Swedish man. He warned me about this game. He told me he played Graveyard Keeper and he thought it was really bad and I shouldn't play it, let alone stream it. But I didn't listen to his advice. I am terribly sorry, Swedish man. You know who you are, but you also aren't here, so too bad. Hey, whilst we're populating truly awful, how about Graveyard Shift? Graveyard Shift is not the worst game I've ever played, but it's pretty close, and it is certainly the worst horror game I have ever played. Is it worse than Fears to Fathom? Yes, this is the difference. Fears to Fathom didn't really do anything. Graveyard Shift did stuff, and they were just horrible. So down in truly awful it goes. I've heard opposite, that the game is good. What, Graveyard Shift? You sure you're not talking about the Night Shift game I played last year? That was a good horror game. So Graveyard Shift is you wandering around in a graveyard from set piece to set piece, and it's one of those, whoa, look at this, spooky in your face, are you scared yet sort of situations. Handled bad, full of bugs, sounded bad, looked bad, was just altogether horrible. I did beat the whole game, mostly because it wasn't very long, but boy was it terrible. Was that another bad Bane game? Not all of our bad games are Bane games. The man's getting too hard a time. Besides, we're a wee bit away from Slice and Dice. Not really much to say about Graveyard Shift beyond that. The VOD is up there, and it's short. If you want to see how bad it is, don't buy the game. Just nasty. Yeah, Bane has certainly brought us many good games. Here's a good game, Gremlins 2. Sure, it's antiquated, but it's pretty good. It's also my kind of game, those NES games. Kind of, not really, what would you even describe the game as? I guess it would fall into action, not even, maybe kind of action platformer. You're running around, jumping around. The game was vibrant, the game looked good and sounded good, again, for its era. And it didn't overstay its welcome. I suppose if I'd paid 20 or 30 quid for it, I'd be a bit unhappy at how short the game was, but I didn't, so I don't mind that all that much. I also find it very amusing to see Frostpunk 2 so lauded that it stands next to freaking Gremlins 2. I like the game. No problems with it. Ninja likes the game as well, all the better. I can't believe how good Gremlins 2 was. Yeah, I suppose the only downside was the horrible, ugly gremlin things that were in the game, but that didn't bother me. I don't know the source material. It was good. And there's not much more to say about it than that. Halo. Did I really play Halo this year? Why in the world is Halo here? That doesn't sound right. I'm going to have to double check my sources here. Did I actually play Halo? Well, I'll be damned, I did play Halo. I played Halo 2 as a punishment game. I already don't like Halo. There is one good way to play Halo, and that is playing it with friends. And the reason that is good is because of your friends, not because of Halo. I don't like it. Is it poor or is it terrible? That's tough, because I think the game is poor, just standing on its own. You put Halo, you clear all your biases, you inspect the game, you come away, and your documents say, poor game. But if I'm the one saying it, and I'm the one saying it for all of these, I think it's just awful. Well, maybe not truly awful, but it's terrible. Yeah, I really do not like Halo as a whole. I think just okay is fair for Halo. Oh, heavens, no, I wouldn't put it up in okay. No, that feels beyond wrong. Granted, it's also tainted, because I think I was told to play the game on Heroic or Legendary, and I am not good with it, but man, early-ish FPS experience like Halo. Bringing, I don't know if Halo was the first game to bring the whole sit behind cover and suck your thumb until your shield regenerates, but it really just slowed down the genre, and I do not like that at all. I will put you in poor Halo. Bearing in mind, this is Halo 2, not Halo 1 or 3. I think I might put Halo 1 up in just okay. I've got a lot of fond memories of Halo 1 couch co-op and blood gulching. I'll put you down in poor Halo. You can stand next to Glover and think about what you've done. I can't quite put you down to Gone Home levels. Do you like Battle Brothers? Do you plan to do another run of it? I do like Battle Brothers. I don't have any current plans because I've already done 2 runs of it. My most recent run of Battle Brothers was pretty good. Speaking of pretty good, how about Hard Time? Hard Time was surprising because I thought I was just going to be having, well, a pretty miserable hard time. And I did, but it was very, very amusing, kind of in that old Flash game Congregate kind of way. Certainly a game I wouldn't mind exploring further, and I know, what's his name, like Mick Dickey or whatnot, has done more with it. It's kind of difficult to run, it's old and ass, but it was highly amusing. Highly amusing. I could not put it any short of good, just based on how much fun I had playing it. Now, the gameplay is pretty poor, and it's incredibly janky, and nothing seems to work quite right. But it's one of those games that develops stories in a way that RimWorld wishes that it could. I seem to recall beating someone so bad that his leg came off, and then being dragged off to court for it. And then when we get back into prison, we see that aforementioned guy is getting killed by the jailers. Probably for possessing scissors. I am trying to talk myself into putting it any higher than good, but I think that's giving the game a little bit too much credit for the hilarity that it causes. Might be something that gets revisited, though, because I know there's more hard time to explore. Very fun and funny, even funnier when we made our characters chatters and forced them to finally do comeuppance for the evils that they have done. I still laugh when I think about the time you got jumped by 15 goblin wolf riders in the swamp. Poor Nut lost his leg. Yes, becoming goblin turds and having a BR take over the company is something I often look back and laugh on in Battle Brothers. But this is not the year of Battle Brothers, I don't think. It was already rated, so hey-ho. Hector. Oh man, Hector. I'll probably have to bring that one up because I did not stream Hector. I also better make sure that we don't have anything too risque on Steam at the moment. Hector, Hector, Hector. You get away and you come here. Hector, Badge of Carnage. This was not the game I was expecting it to be. Why are you... Okay, for one, I have autoplay disabled. For two, why are you showing me this anyway? Something isn't adding up. What if I go here? Okay, they decided to not really have much of a store page? No, shut up, Telltale. I don't want to listen to you. Okay, well, I guess we're not going to learn too much of it off of its store page. I guess I'll have to do the talking then. So Hector is a point-and-click puzzle adventure game. Okay, fair enough. We have about a bajillion of those on tap. But what Hector does is it very unashamedly makes it filthy and British. That might be superfluous. We could just say British. If I recall, the first puzzle involves you stringing together some thread and condom, or maybe paperclip and condom, to fish your jail keys out of an overflowing toilet bowl. And that very much sets the scene for just how crass the game wants to be. It is horrific, but it's just horrific enough to work. It's, I was laughing the whole way through, and if I'm laughing the whole way through, then I really can't rate it any lower than hard time. The puzzles do have that kind of moon logic, as many of these games tend to have, but it just ends up working so well. Maybe I'm just truly homesick for Britain, but I wouldn't want to go that far. Yes, the junkie sex. Oh god. So what is it? You need to pick up this sex doll, but you can't have it, so instead you bring in another one for a refund. So you grab this methed out guy from a park, shove him in a box, and say, I need a return on this model, it doesn't work. And then he somehow gets bought as well, and then you blow up the whole shop. Yeah, it is mad, absolute mad. But you know, it's just so unhinged and mad that I couldn't be the mad one. I was enjoying every step of the way. And on top of that, if you truly got stuck on the puzzles, the game is very generous with its hint system. It's not even hints, it's just, where do I go? It says, oh, go here. And, oh, I'm still clueless. Maybe you should look at the pillar here. And then you go, oh, I'm still clueless. Use the oil and the light, you fool. Incredibly crass game, but it does it very well. I think if you're going to make a crass game, you have to set it in Britain so you can get the free pass on it. Yes, a game of true romance. She's good value. Oh boy, Hitman, World of Assassination. Is it amazing? Or is it just great? That's a tough one. So Hitman was a game I was playing at the start of the year. Came out of nowhere for me because prior to this, the only Hitman game I had played was Hitman Go, which, as you know, is a puzzle game. But Hitman, World of Assassination is absolutely amazing. I did not expect the experience that I got out with it, but the whole super surface level roguelite element of advancing through doing these randomized kind of whodunit level things was so good. Oh, and I really appreciate games that give you freedom, and this game gives you so much of it. Just dumps you in, says, here's your target or targets, get to work. Do it as you see fit, or take the optional challenges to get even more Manola out of it. Also, you accumulate money. Money, which does have a reason, because you use the money to further your goals by getting yourself new gadgets to make yourself do even more, or go without them if you want the extra challenge. It was so good. Murdering people has never been so fun, and that's a pretty high bar to clear. The only downside of this game, I think, is that it's got online connection. So you must, for playing a single-player game, having to have a forced online connection is ultra cancer. But I will not detract the gameplay experience from that. It was truly amazing. I played... How much of this game did I play? Admittedly, I have not played it in quite some time. Last played in February. But during January and February, I clocked 75 hours. 75 extremely enjoyable hours in Hitman. Highly recommend it. Best looking bald guy in a video game as well. Baron is a maniac in Hitman. Baron's been playing Hitman and I haven't seen this? What? Yeah, it's... Sometimes when I stream a game, I enjoy it, and I play it, and I play more of it, but also I want to see other people play it. So I'm always happy when in this community I get to see, say, some people playing Slay the Spire. But I can't recall many or any other people streaming much Hitman, and that makes me sad. I guess in the end, why can't you all just stream all the time so that when I'm done, I can also enjoy watching others? Can't you just stop and think how you could make me happier in your day-to-day lives? Unthinkable. And to think this is the season for giving. Right, I can forgive a lot of things, and Hollow Cure, I thought I'd be immediately turned off of because it's all about not just idols, but what do you call them? Like VTuber idols. Like, that is a massive turn off for me. I do not see the appeal whatsoever of idols to begin with, but on top of that, having what is definitely a voice-masked, old crumbling man on the other end of the screen masquerading as an anime girl, I think there's something very sick going on. But, that aside, Hollow Cure is a very, very good game. It is a Vampire Survivor clone, and that alone cripples it a bit in my opinion, but it's a very, very good one. It's extremely vibrant. The visuals, although they're kind of chunky pixely, do work very well in their environment, and the music is fantastic. And again, even though it's a Vampire Survivors clone, I have a hard time hating the gameplay of it. I don't love it, but I certainly can't hate it. We prefer old men not voice masked around here, says Andarius. Ugh. I don't know. It's just less we say about that, the better, I'm sure. This game is great. I have a hard time putting it any short of great. It is overflowing with content as well. It's got that usual Vampire Survivors clone-esque bajillion meta upgrades and combinations of things to get new combinations of things. But then even when you're done with that, you can go and use your gains to go and build up your own little house in a peaceful mode where you go fishing and you go chatting to all the little VR things that are running around. And if that's not enough to sell you, the game is free. It's got that Awaria and Helltaker thing of, I'm going to give you something I put a lot of love into, and you don't have to pay me buggery for it. I'm not even sure if there is a way to put money towards this. Anyway, it's amazing, but it's a great game. So down in great it goes. And I still feel like I'm selling it a little short. I think if this game were not a genre that I inherently don't like, it would be up in amazing, hands down. So consider the Vampire Survivor clone tax being a downgrade from amazing to great. Do not be put off as I was by Hollow Cure's subject matter. As a game, it's great. I watch a very small VTuber, but he has quite a normal model, and he's not overly loud or hyper. I also watch Lucky. I VTubed once, many, many years ago, and I forget why I did it. It wasn't a punishment game. I believe Feke had gifted me Face Rig, and I used Face Rig whilst trucking. Back then I wore glasses. That was before I had the plates in my eyes singed off by a laser, and man, was that one of the better decisions I made in my life. And I remember it constantly glitching out because it couldn't track my eyes through the glasses. April Fools. That sounds about right. Yeah, sleepy anime girl trucking April Fools. So I was way ahead of the curve. I can pat myself on the back for that one. I can also pat myself on the back for my performance in Into the Breach. I ran this one for a weekly one-shot. I had always been interested in playing Into the Breach, not because the game itself interested me, but because it was developed by, I believe it's Sunset Games or Subset Games, the makers of FTL Faster Than Light. Now there is an amazing game. Into the Breach straddles a line between being a tactical RPG and being a puzzle game, and that straddling is something I didn't really enjoy, because you make a brilliant plan, you follow through, and then the whole game state changes and you have to think all over again. The game is far too much sitting down and thinking when I want to be doing. So overall, although I won the game, and I may have at the time had some good things to say about it, that was just the victory talking. I don't actually think the game is very good, but I couldn't quite put it down into poor. That would be saying it's like Halo, and I'm not willing to go that deep down. I'm willing to put it into okay. It is okay. The gameplay is interesting enough, the visuals are quite good, and how you work with a very limited amount of tools in an awkward and evolving situation is interesting. It just didn't scratch my brain in particularly pleasant ways. So for me, yes, the equation you can take away from here is that Into the Breach is Endwar. The two are the same. Ubisoft wish they could get their tendrils into that. Ugh, okay, here's a terrible game, and it's easy to slam into terrible. This is very small for you to read. I will tell you, it's 6 random characters and a single floor dungeon. That's the whole game. And that is the whole title to this whole game. If that's not confusing enough for you, let's bring it up on Steam. Wow, I didn't refund this game? Unthinkable. This was a punishment game, and it was a punishment game that I actually beat. Punishment games for me are meant to last 2 hours, but there are some exceptions to it, and one is if I beat the game. It was very fast and easy to defeat. It's just this. Monochrome, single floor, first person dungeon crawling, and then when you have a monster encounter, flashbangs you with a completely white screen, and you have randomly generated characters, equipment, spells. You gotta feel out what they do, and vending machines to spend your money on getting stuff. It was just nothing. This game was bad. What did I even say about this game? I'd rather not read through my own reviews for this. I feel like patting myself on the back a bit too much. It was a terrible experience, though. I don't know who would want to play this. There is a concept there. Can somebody make an engrossing game that is essentially just randomly created? Well, in this case, no. No, you could not. Was it truly awful, though? Again, it didn't have that pain element. I think for something to be truly awful, there has to be a sense of pain in playing the game. The only pain I got out of this was the flashbang of white every time we had a random encounter. It wasn't that bad. Boy, was it poor. 14 reviews, Lamau. Jake, make it 50. What, we only have... Oh, right. You're talking about this right here. I'm not a particularly empathetic individual, but I feel an immense sadness when I see somebody make a game and it just gets no attention. So seeing a game that just has like 14 reviews, or, you know, it gets worse. See a game that has 2 reviews or no reviews. I feel this sadness because I can feel the work the person put into the game and just have it be completely ignored. It must feel pretty bad. I think 14 isn't quite so ignored, but also the game is pretty bad, and I cannot imagine it took a lot of work to make either. The real sadness is that I paid for this game, and I'm pretty sure I didn't get it on sale. Also, it's only 50% off. Oh, Christ. Okay, I want to stop thinking about this game because it was not pleasant. It's down in terrible for a reason. Let's instead think of Karate Survivor. Ooh, now here's a game that, unlike our predecessor there, actually looks good. Can we get ourselves some karate, please? Played it quite recently as well. Should be easy to find. Here we go. Karate Survivor. Looks good, doesn't it? Yeah, it looks really good. But here's the problem. It's yet another Vampire Survivor clone. I would never have played this game if I hadn't had it delivered freely into my inbox. I get shilled tons of games, and sometimes I even check them out. On paper, it seemed kind of interesting, right? I was quite a fan of old Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan films back in the day. What was the one where he jumped through a stepladder and horrifically injured himself? I forget, but it was a good one. So yes, you string together all these kung fu moves, beat up hordes and hordes of bad guys. Pretty winner combination. And when you're playing, it gets even more winner because all the stuff that's in the areas, a bad example, where is... Yeah, here we go, here's the bar. All these things you have around here you tend to interact with. You can pick up the lamp here and start smashing their heads in with it. You can break them through the shells here, pick up bottles and throw them at them, kick things into their face, jump over things. All seems like winner moves, but just in how the game works, I did not enjoy it at all. And I think there are two main problems to the game. Firstly, it's got that whole passive experience. You're just walking around. That's all you do. You don't make any input other than just walking, and I don't like that. There's a problem for me with Vampire Survivor games, or Vampire Survivor clone games. I feel like you don't do anything but wandering around, and that's not enjoyable to me. Just give me some kind of action that I can be the one to choose to do. The moves you string together deploy automatically, so it's all about timing when you run into the enemies to start doing these moves, which will happen whether or not you're in place for them. And here's the crux of the matter, the game has no strafe button. You're always looking in the direction you're moving. And of course, any physical contact you make with these enemies, they don't hit you, they just touch you and you take damage. Means you're constantly kind of like running away, turning back, smacking into them. The whole flow of the game was very, very unpleasant. So in a genre that I already don't like, this game had premise and then just destroyed it for me. So I was not impressed with you, Karate Survivor. Go down into poor. Yeah, joining quite a few of your Vampire Survivor-like bros. Says the man with possibly the most pat-resistant back on the planet. Had to be strong to sustain some constant barrage. Well, of course, I lift for a reason. It's not so others can admire me, it's so that I can handle my own admiration all that much better. Karmazoo. Nix was going off the rails at recommending this game to me, and then I played it, and it was okay. There's not really much to say about Karmazoo. It's a cooperative kind of platformer. You and others try to puzzle your way through this moving area, and it was okay, but it was not something I ever wanted to play more. So I think I played a round or two. I went, well, that was a game, and then down it goes. There was nothing bad about it, but there was nothing good about it. So in it goes. It's not like Into the Breach where it's pulling me quite heavily in both directions. It was just, bleh. There's a game. If you're interested in the premise, play it. Me, I was not. Is that the one that was procedurally generated? I couldn't tell you. I don't think it was procedurally generated because it would determine difficulty based on the amount of characters playing, but I don't know. Was Cookie Clicker a punishment game? I think so. How about King of the Castle? Oh, I need a drink before I start talking about this game. Stand me a moment here. So, I will admit, when I first picked up King of the Castle, my expectations were rather low. I've played these kinds of party games before. We did quite a lot of them at Paradox. It was a fairly frequent occurrence to sit down in one of the meeting rooms, use the giant overhead projector to play games. And one of the great things about working at a game development company is you're surrounded by people who are obsessed with games. So it's not difficult to find people that would want to sit down and play some tabletop, play some card games, play deception games, play video games. I even hijacked one of the meeting rooms every Friday to set up DDR at work. Good times. Then again, when it comes to these kinds of party games, I always find they're a bit lackluster. And there's always like a thing you figure out and it removes a lot of the fun from it. But King of the Castle has persisted and been immensely enjoyable, and I am nothing short of amazed at how much fun there is to have with the game. That comes from a lot of different factors at play here. The game works extremely well with mass integration, which can be a difficult thing to do. A big thing I think the game does very well is the currency. People want currency. And that's not just because having big number makes people feel better, it does inherently have value. But the value is not so big as to be game-changing. As you can see, the patricians have all the bloody money, but they can't win with it. But the very fact that it has the value to make an impact gives a weight to what people do. And that I really like. And these things are integrated well. I can take people's money away or give it to them. Curry favor, stew discontent. It feels great being the king and having these little checks and balances to keep working away at in order to advance my own goal. Seems fairly balanced. The writing is very funny. There are a lot of events, although I do wonder just how many. We've certainly seen some of them repeating, and I wish I could dig through and just see how much content there is in the game. Seems like a very easy game to make content for, but it seems that it's not being further developed. Even so, we've played plenty of it. It should be no surprise to you that this game is amazing, and we'll be playing even more of it. We're going to do another fresh round of 5 chunks at it, with a new set of factions. The Chiefs survived. The Chiefs are in power and all enjoy their VIP status for it. King of the Castle was an amazing game for sorting out the plebes and the best of chat, says Dark Young. Notably best in chat, alongside one of his other best buddies, Rested Pandy. And Krebsig in to say North FC. Yeah, King of the Castle was amazing, and I was amazed. At no point going into it did I expect to have my socks blown off the way I was with it. But I have a great time, other people seem to have a great time, reading the sour comments of people that failed to secure power always fills me with glee. Ninjin trying to justify to himself the imbalance inherent in the game after noting that he could never, ever win as a patrician. Just warmed my cockles. Yes, King of the Castle is truly amazing, and I would love to see other people run it and be one of the plebes myself. I wonder if we could do that. It really thrives on having lots of people around. Well, that's food for thought. What about La Mulana MSX Edition? Oh, God, it is just awful. But does it deserve to be truly awful? So I don't like La Mulana, but I really like La Mulana. La Mulana is well made, very large, respects its player, but I can't stand Metroidvanias. I hate all the backtracking. I hate all the grinding. It's a good game, but it's not good for me. I think that alone is going to keep it out of truly awful. If I were the god of gaming and I made all the omnipotent and omnipresent decisions related to gaming in the universe, then I'd have no problem slamming it as truly awful, but I am simply God's gift to gaming. So I don't think I can quite go that far. Yeah, La Mulana is not the game for me whatsoever, so I'm happy putting it down in terrible. There is genius there. Play the Steam release of La Mulana if you want to truly enjoy the game. The music is great and the visuals are good, I'll give it that. But I can't stand Metroidvanias. I would have never played this game on my own time, but of course it was a punishment game. I believe Thagnus put it forward. God, that was misery. Misery incarnate. It sounds like a comment coming from someone who lacks a military. Oh boy. That patrician play was something else. Here's another play that's something else, Lethal Company. I've not streamed this game, but I have played it. And it falls into the category of game that's really, really bad. But it's really good to play with company. The reason that it's good is because of the company and not the game. So yeah, Lethal Company is just a terrible game. You could take the same game and make it good, because Lethal Company is extremely rough around the edges. The physics in the game are beyond barbaric. The game crashes all the bloody time. It looks hideous, but the premise is there. And I'd be surprised if there isn't already a game that takes the premise and actually does it well, delivering the same fun experience that you have with other people, but actually in a good game. But as it stands, I think Lethal Company is terrible. It's a game where you go into a place that's full of anomalies, you gotta get some things done, and then extract your way out. But of course, your friends are going to be in charge of keeping you alive during that. It's got a fun element where you can't quite hear people around you. If conditions aren't good, if they're too far away, or it's too stormy, then you're not going to be hearing them. There are multi-copycats already. They're not good either. Well, hopefully at some point there'll be a Lethal Company game that comes out that is good. Because then you not only have a great game, but you have this great experience. Because yes, the social experience of this game is fantastic. But that's not the game that's making me have a good time. It's watching Brelix screw Lucky over, trapping him in a room with monstrosities and letting him die. But that is not Lethal Company. We could have the same experience in an abandoned warehouse with no video games at all. So no, I will not credit Lethal Company with any of that. It is a terrible game, and it deserves to be slandered as such, as does Lifeline. Lifeline is the PlayStation 2 game where you control the world's most inept individual through using voice lines. But the PlayStation 2 era was pretty sketchy when it came to this. I'm not sure if it's ever gotten any better. It's very poor at understanding what you're saying. It's even worse if you have an accent. As Scots go, I'm probably in the top percentile of Scots when it comes to a very slight accent. And even with that, the game could not quite understand what I'm trying to say. Open the door. Go to the shower. Why would I do that? No, the door. But there's nothing under the table. It is an infuriating game. Normally, I will see through my runs. I believe this is a weekly one-shot. Normally, I would see them through. This one, I could not. I got beyond frustrated with this game. And if you've been around for a while, you know that I have a very high tolerance for such things. But this one did my tatty in. Horrible experience. I can't quite put it into truly awful, though, because whilst the game is truly dog dirt to play, I admire what it did. That was something that hadn't been seen before. Voice directing a character going around, and whilst the voice recognition didn't work well, I think the rest of the game did. And if that one thing were fixed, it could be a good or even great game. I wonder if the interest in such a thing has already passed and we might not see a game like it. But it was interesting. So that alone can keep it out of awful. There were glorious intentions here. Technology was just not quite there. It must have been even worse in the PS2 era. Imagine trying to speak into one of those iToys. Have you ever used an iToy as an actual webcam microphone? It's disastrously bad. I had an iToy back in the day. Why did I have that? Yeah, there was a PlayStation 2 DDR game that incorporated iToy hand motion. God, it was bad. I'm glad that's not on this list. It's impressive that there's an entire genre of enraging Scots. Well, it worked well at that. Anyway, down in terrible you go, saved only from awful by being interesting enough to be out of there. The part that made me drop the game was, I think, going through a storage room, crawling with enemies, because not only do you have to solve puzzles with it, you've also got to do combat in it. Move right, move back, reload, turn around, shoot, 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 hit, kick. And she's not doing any of what you've just told her to do. Lisa is awful. Absolutely horrible game. Looks bad, sounds bad, plays bad, and is intentionally painful to play. And I don't give games any credit for being intentionally bad. I'm sure some people do. I've seen a lot of people rate this game very highly. Game changed my life. I was moved. I was motivated. Oh, hell no. I don't know what has gone horribly wrong in your life that you look towards Lisa and find some kind of solace for you. But for me, this game was just outright awful. Very happy to put it alongside these. In fact, kind of makes Graveyard Keeper feel in an ill place when it stands next to Lisa. But yeah, I hated this game so much. And I knew that. This game was rolled as a punishment game, but I had already played Lisa in my own time. I think when it came out, or not long after it came out. But no, God no. I don't know what goes through the mind of the kind of people that find this an enjoyable experience. Here's another game that gets into your mind, Lobotomy Corporation. Why did I play this game? Visually, the game is quite appealing, and I don't mean because of its anime art style. Maybe we can bring the game up and have a look at it. Is such a thing even possible? Lobotomy Corporation. Can we make something work here? None of the screenshots really show the game off in the way that I wanted to mention. Maybe you do? Maybe you do. Steam, come back to me. Yeah, here we go. You lock up SCP, Secure, Contain, Protect anomalies, and you grind them, and then you get resource with which to invest into your corporation. The game is extremely esoteric. It does not explain itself very well. There's a lot of dying and restarting and not really understanding why things went as wrong as they did. It's also not a fun game in any real way, but I was interested enough to give it a go. Just wasn't interested enough to last very long. There's just something about it. It feels very trendy and stylized. I quite like the look of what I saw. Also, the way it animated was quite cute as well, but of course we're not seeing that there. I liked what I saw, but I didn't like what I played. The game was pretty poor. I'm not sure if I can quite put it down into terrible. I feel like I don't understand the game well enough to put it down into terrible, but make no mistake, I did not enjoy playing Lobotomy Corporation, and I will not play it anymore. Can't really see what people get out of the experience either, but I'm not into SCP. I've always found that as just a very weird hive mind fanfic. Have you seen my latest SCP-14692? It's the haunted McDonald's Happy Meal. You put it on the table, you turn around, you turn back, and it's still there, but the food inside has developed bite marks of various sizes. It's just, oh god. There's something going on there, and it's not something I care to ever truly understand. Here's a game I understand all too well. Toy Story for the Super Nintendo. How bad is it? It's bad. It's really bad. But is it truly awful? It handles badly, it looks badly, there's nothing interesting going on, it's got that old platformer issue of the game being far too zoomed in, it's not clear what to do. Yeah, truly awful. I got nothing good to say about Toy Story, it's a painful experience as well to play. You should be experienced with games being hard to the point of sadism, Jake. You play community-submitted Caesar 3 maps. But you see, I am the greatest governor that's ever lived when it comes to Caesar 3. I can handle that kind of hard. Although maybe not when it's Sudazima putting them forward. Oh boy. Sometimes I go through some of my old Caesar 3 videos to remind myself of fun cities that I've built, but that one Sudazima made, Visa, I can't remember the name of it, but outrageously difficult. All the while telling me, it's not that hard, I even made it easier for you. You know what you're doing. Anyway, Toy Story is really bad. Really, truly awful. I don't have a single good thing to say about the game. And I'm trying. just bad. Okay, how about Lock? Lock is a puzzle game. And as puzzle games go, it's fine. The whole experience in Lock is you're given a grid of letters and you must click through the letters in order to black them out. And then you can black out additional tiles in which to connect other letters to make other words to advance the tiles even further. You're done when you black out the whole thing. That's fine. Okay, these are puzzles. I do them. I don't feel particularly good about them. It's just an okay puzzle game. And I really don't have much more to say about it than that. It doesn't present itself in any particularly exciting way, good or bad. The music... Did it even have music? God, it was certainly immemorable. Yeah, it belongs there in just okay, which in a way is the worst place to be in all of this. Tends to have the least interesting games going, doesn't it? I suppose Dungeon Munchies was interesting. That's how you get another video game crash, by the way, which at this point I rather welcome. One can only hope. Love Choice. Love Choice was a game, but it wasn't much of a game. It was just go through these PowerPoint presentations, make slightly different choices, and see how they play out. I got this game in, I believe, the summer sale, and I just got it because it looked cute, and it was kind of cute. The solution, by the way, is always stalk your partner. To get the good end, we must stalk through her social media to understand what it is she likes, and then offer to take her out on those. And then, when she has made your apartment into a dump, always clean up after her. Anyway, it was fine. There wasn't anything good to it, there wasn't anything bad to it. It was just okay. And sometimes that's fine. It certainly didn't cost a lot of money, and it was kind of cute to look at. But I wouldn't recommend it to anybody, so what's there to say? Love Choice was awful, says Finellis. Awful. I do not recall it being an awful experience. It wasn't awfully good, but I didn't come away going, what is this trash? It was a wee cute game that didn't really do anything. No, there's no way I could put it down in awful. We're talking Toy Story and Lisa. You got problems, Finellis. You're going soft, says Dark Young. Well, let's get even softer. Magic Research 2 is an incremental game, or an idle game, or a clicker game, whatever you want to call it. It is also the best incremental idle clicker game that I have ever played. Not that I've played a ton of them, I've played maybe a dozen, but it was so good. Very well refined, extremely well balanced, but upon everything else, what I most liked about Magic Research 2 was that you're never idling in Magic Research 2. You're always optimizing. The game has a lot of dungeon crawling, researching, and depending on what you're doing, you're going to want to re-optimize. You're going to want to make new loadouts. You're going to want to have new spells being cast, and you do actively cast spells. And of course, you can choose to passively or automate the casting of spells. It's just incredibly good. If you are in any way interested in the incremental genre, I'd say definitely check out Magic Research 2. Can we bring you up and have a wee look-see at you? I wonder if I uninstalled the game to spare myself from it. No, I did not. Hello, Magic Research 2. 73 hours in the game. Yikes. So I think the whole game is actually just done in HTML. And I will forgive you for thinking, Jake, this looks like ass. Because it kind of does. Slime is a bad example here. It does have deviant art style enemies to fight against here. But you feel good managing all the stuff that you have in the game. It's not very painful to do over. It feels very good to rip through the game on New Game Pluses. It has some terrifyingly difficult enemies that you cannot just grind your way through. You must think, you must optimize, you must equip, you must prepare, you must cast spells as and when needed. And that is truly what I love about the game. It's very hands-on. I can't think of any time I actually just left... Dark mode, please. I can't think of any time I just let the game sit and idle, because there's always stuff to do. And if you are at a point where it's like, oh man, I do need to just grind through this dungeon, what you do is whenever you're not running the game, you build up a time warp. You know how in a lot of these kinds of games, especially if they're free to play, you must pay to get yourself half hour, 2 hours, 24 hours of just progress done. In this game, you just get given it for not playing the game. The game goes, oh, you haven't played in a day. Well, here's a day worth of time warp. Get going. It's so good. It's so damn good. I had a great time with Magic Research, a greater time than I ever expected I could have with an incremental game, which puts me in a difficult situation. Was it great or was it amazing? Considering your peerage up and amazing, I can't put you that high. Magic Research did not quite give me the jollies that Archipelago, Dominions, Hitman, and King of the Castle did. But you are a very strong contender up in Great. Yeah, the games you're alongside in Great feel much more befitting of your admittedly lofty status, Magic Research. But yes, highly recommend the game. You don't need to play the first game, because I didn't play the first game. I don't even know where I got the recommendation for Magic Research 2 from. I just saw it and went, oh, let's check it out. And I'm so glad I did, because it was so good. That's honestly a common feature in newer idle games. You mean just getting the Time Warp for free? I've seen a lot of pay to get this done. Sometimes in games like that, I just cheat the game in order to get that currency so I can, well, not have to pay them. After all, who pays? Surprise 7 Days to Die isn't great and not at the top. Yeah, if 7 Days to Die had a better end game, it would be amazing, but it falls off. It needs that kind of Avorion level, get your legendary things kind of loop. In Avorion, you can play for 50 hours and have a great time, but the thing that's making you play that extra 100 hours is wanting to get all the biggest, hardest fights and the best loot. 7 Days to Die doesn't have that final leg. Once you have an SMG, you don't really need better. You don't really care if it's level 1, 5, or 6, right? It's not really relevant how different it is. And having a good trench filled with spike traps is fine. There's not really much motivation to go and make it covered in gold and filled with the most elaborate things. It just... If the end game were better, yes, it would probably be amazing. As it stands... Nothing wrong with being great. Great is great. This is not great, though. This is Medieval Dynasty, the poster child for being an early access survival crafting open world game. It is slow, it is laborious, it is repetitive, it is buggy, it feels incomplete. God, is it bad. But it's not quite bad enough as to be truly awful. I want to say that for actual stinkers. Poster child of disappointment. Not really, because at this point you know what you're getting into when you roll yourself one of these early access, open world survival crafter. Ugh, bad stuff. NPCs suck, bandits suck, combat sucks, actions are all terrible, repetitive. Literally gather 1,000 of this item in order to advance yourself to being able to grab them better. Grabbing reeds comes to mind. The premise is quite good. I like the idea of actually just building an entire medieval village and populating it, but at no point is it enjoyable to do. So it's just terrible. Just really bad. I think it was Marek who was playing a fair bit of this. I don't know how or why he summoned the patience to do that. He's not a patient man. Man quit out of Mega Man, but he's willing to play Medieval Dynasty? Ugh. Anyway, bad. Mon Musu Gladiator. I quite like games where you grab a gladiator and send them off to fight, but this game is really just Slay the Spire on a very small budget, and it doesn't do it particularly well. There's not really much more to say about it than that. Progress through, take fights with your drawn cards. Yeah, it fell into the trap of all those kinds of games. Okay, why would I play this when I could play Slay the Spire? You have no argument. Unless the argument is badly drawn deviant art style anime girls. And that's not inherently good enough for me. So down you go into poor. Mousecraft. Mousecraft was a puzzle game. About guiding... Oh god, I've forgotten the premise. I remember the game. I remember playing the game quite well. But that doesn't mean I remember the premise here. What was Mousecraft all about? It was go and get cheese with mice, right? Steam, help me out here. Oh, Christ, there was the dropping of the Tetranode things. But yes, there are the mice. Get them to the cheese. Probably pick up some optional things along the way. I seem to recall rather enjoying the puzzles in this one, and some of them were real head-scratchers. It also evolved a fair bit with the acid, the water, the metal drops. I also seem to recall using a bit of jiggery-pokery with the timing of the game to acquire some solutions that were perhaps not kosher. Definitely felt like a bit of a budget game. This is the kind of game that I wonder How did this ever actually get created? Who sat down and said, I have a dream. My dream is to make a fairly generic puzzle game about mice getting to cheese. Everyone's gonna love it. Nobody sat down and thought that, right? So why did this game get made? I don't know. It's the kind of questions that keep me up at night. Anyway, the game was perfectly serviceable. I don't even feel good about putting it in okay. It was good. It was a good, solid puzzle game. Germans, perhaps? Or maybe it was Lemmings, but with mice. And for children. I don't know, some of those puzzles felt a bit beyond for children. Then again, Lemmings was rough and tough at times. Given some of the other games in good, I feel a bit bad putting you that high, but I have a hard time faulting it. Must have played Undertale was very determined to get the mouse, the cheese. Oh boy, we've entered the end zone. Right. Nancy Drew and Blackmore Manor. Nancy Drew, Midnight in Salem. Nancy Drew and the Model Mysteries. Nancy Drew, the Phantom of Venice. Nancy Drew and the Secret of Shadow Ranch. So I played 5 Nancy Drews this year. I maintain that the devil cannot have me until I have played all of the Nancy Drew games, so it's a little concerning that I do 5 in a year. I might meet my maker a little faster than planned. They better keep making more of them. Anyway, this shouldn't be too difficult, right? Nancy Drew and Midnight in Salem is truly awful. This game ruined the series. It did everything wrong, barely had any puzzles, it was hideous, transition to 3D, new terrible voice actor, just the works. For the rest of this, couldn't I refer to our Nancy Drew tier list? Do I have that to hand? Oh, you better believe I always have that to hand. According to this, Shadow Ranch was terrible, and I came away from Shadow Ranch indeed thinking it was terrible. The magnet puzzle, finding the sticks, although the sticks didn't bother me too much, finding the arrowheads certainly did. The colored rock puzzle towards the end, the very blatantly obvious perp in the game. Oh boy, and using that oh yeah, God, it's all coming back to me. You were a pretty terrible entry into all of this. Blackmore Manor was really bad, that horrible little girl that we had to be constantly playing games with. What does our tier list say about Blackmore? I'm not seeing it very low, which is surprising me. Help me out here, where's Blackmore? Blackmore is so-so? I don't know, I didn't like it. The thing is, it wasn't me that personally played Blackmore when it got rated so-so. Now that I've had my hands-on experience, I couldn't put it down with Shadow Ranch, but I'm putting you down in poor. I suppose that's fair, though. Generally, you downgrade all of these by 1 when measuring them against other games, because as Nancy Drew games is a different question. I told you back then it should have been lower, says Pepper. Everyone thinks their Nancy Drew is the worst Nancy Drew, right? Get back to me when you've done them all, Pepper. I'm working on it. Nancy Drew and the Model Mysteries is also terrible. It's not as awful as Salem, but also Model Mysteries is a spin-off game for the Nintendo DS. Yeah, it doesn't deserve anything better than terrible, that's for sure. Stay Tuned for Danger really should have been the worst. We'll get there in due time. The final one here, though. Phantom of Venice. I feel a little bit fonder of the game now that time has passed. I do remember being very frustrated with it, but how can we rate it so poorly for having Nancy Drew dancing in her gimp outfit or having some scopa? Don't fall for it. Well, let us refer once again to the tier list here. We called it good? We called it good? Really? There were some puzzles in it which were quite good puzzles, but on the whole? Ooh, boy. It made someone rage quit. Yeah, they rage quit life. They didn't just rage quit Nancy Drew. The Scopa has blinded you. Remember finding the pigeon in amongst all the other pigeons. Remember the tessellating tiles puzzle? Okay, I gotta remember, the previous list was rating them as Nancy Drew games against other Nancy Drew games. Here we have a sane list of actual games people play. Let's give in to sanity and put it down in poor where it belongs. Maybe that's a little dangerously close to Blackmoor, but I'm not putting Blackmoor down with Shadowranch, and I'm not putting Shadowranch down with Salem, so we're going to have to accept this compromise. Some people play Nancy Drew. Yeah, Blobber, what kinds of people? Have you covered these games? Blackmoor, Venice. I know you did Shadowranch. You did that rather recently, and you better believe I had my laughs rewatching. And I know you did Salem as well. You told me about the bug in the game. Only Shadow. The rest are too new. Wait, no, you did... Maybe you just knew about the bug in Salem? The mystery deepens. Oh, you didn't play Salem. Recht. Next up is Shiller's Art Night Security. Night Security? Did I do that one this year? That doesn't seem right. I am going to have to check the official figures here. When did I run Night Security? Oh, wow. I ran Night Security back in January. Well, that's an interesting one. I didn't expect to see you on the list. Even though I made this list and I added you in there manually, I didn't expect to see you here. So Shiller's Art can be okay and it can be very, very bad, but Night Security was surprisingly good. Very eerie. And it struck extra true with me because, as I like to bring up in such games, I was once a security guard. I spent 3 years guarding various locations across Scotland. And I've certainly done office buildings like the one we had to do here, although admittedly, my office building was not full of spooky dolls or crazy blood women coming out to get me. Also, cheers Crickney, showing your appreciation also for Night Security. Night Security was good. If the ending wasn't terrible, I would have even made it great, because when I judge a spooky game, I'm not necessarily judging it by the same standards that I'm judging all these other games by. I'm generally judging by, did I get spooked? And still, was it spooky as a game? That's why I don't tend to like things that are just, boo, jump scare in your face. The game has to be there to lull you into the sense of playing a game, and then it is ready to unload the spooks on you. That is why Ao Oni is so good, and why Mad Father is so bad. Yes, Night Security was a good game. It was an excellent spook game, but overall a good game. Why is Valorant popping up? I do not understand. Here's something I do now understand, the love for Oblivion. How do I feel about Oblivion after playing it? Now, I feel for Andarius. He kept looking at me like a dog. Like, did I do good with recommending Oblivion? Are you sure you like it? Sounds like you don't like it. Well, I enjoyed playing Oblivion. But I don't think it was a good game. In fact, I think it was a pretty bad game. The reason I enjoyed Oblivion was for the charming experience of the whole thing, not the game at all. Why won't you die? Yes, perhaps good for its time. I'm not playing it in its time. Also, the combat sucks. The level scaling sucks. The music is good. Damn that Jeremy Soule. He works his way into my soul for sure. Puts me in a very, very difficult situation, because I could very happily put it anywhere from good to terrible and be satisfied with where it goes. It is good because it's so charming, it's such a product of its time, gives you the freedom, does what it did very well at the time. It's also just okay because despite those, it has several issues of its own. It's also poor because those issues are really bad. It's also terrible because those issues are fairly terrible. So where does it go in all of these? Of all of these, I'm willing to give it quite the benefit of the doubt. It's okay. It's not just okay in the way a lot of these other games are just okay. It's just, it's got good, it's got lots of bad, and it's slightly overweighed by the good than the bad. So it's okay. Certainly don't regret having played through it. In fact, I'm glad that I did. Although if I ever have to do another Bethesda lockpicking mini-game, I'll be able to lockpick my way out of life for that one. I'm on Observation Duty 7. I was very impressed with this game. It was great. It doesn't do much. It's really just glorified spot the difference. But I did like how it insidiously creeps into your head. I really liked a bit of Hungarian representation in a game. And okay, well, it was the first one I played, even though it's apparently 7th in a series, but I like having something new served to me. And yeah, you get all paranoid, you check things out, seeps into your head and gives you maybe not scary, spooky experiences like you get with, say, Night Security, but more an insidious dread that I really rather liked. That said, great is maybe overselling it. When I was considering the other games up in great, it felt a little bit too much for that, given how limited a game it is. I played more of this game off-stream, and it's really quite limited in the amount of anomalies that it gives you, and some of them end up feeling quite lazy as well. So, yeah, it was good. Yeah, as soon as I saw it next to Magic Research, I thought maybe not that great, but I liked it. Can't forget it's a game with a fat, bald man, a fat, bald Hungarian man as well, read too. Again, getting superfluous here. Observation was great among the other spooky games of the year. Yeah, it was good to actually get some half-decent spooky games. And we're not done with them either, are we? No, I see you there. How about One Night Stand? Barely a game, barely deserving of its place here on the tier list, but it's getting a place regardless. So One Night Stand was a game, and I did stream it, where you wake up in bed with no memory of the night. There's a naked lady next to you, and you need to... Well, there's nothing you need to do. Just do things. You can slip on her underwear, you can go searching through her laptop or her purse. You can just put on your clothes and leave after fumbling with the lock. There was no real payoff to the game, though, at all. I again played more of it off-stream, just trying to suss out if I could ever actually stick around. But she always boots you out of her crummy wee apartment because she really needs to offload the caravel, and you're talking about your experience with DDR is just not enough to captivate her. So there's not a lot of payoff to it. I quite liked the game because it had an art style vaguely reminiscent of a DS series I really liked, Hotel Dusk, a series of only 2 games, sadly. Maybe I'll stream it someday, but maybe not. Anyway, that's a lot of words to say. It was okay. Didn't do much, but it didn't do anything wrong. Just didn't do anything particularly well. So there's your equivalence. Oblivion is just as good as One Night Stand. Game taught us the trick of dating is snooping on people, and that's what it reminded me of. Thank you. You mean Hotel Dusk? Right, I am absolutely going to need to remind myself on Outbreak, because I think it was a fairly chunky Resident Evil style-ish game, but let me consult with Steam. It's certainly not the Outbreak I love. Resident Evil Outbreak is one of my favorite games of all time. Did I actually play this game? I have no memory of this. Hang on, let's bring it up on Steam. Hang on, it's slightly coming back to me. Yeah, it was a chunky Resident Evil style game. Yeah, I remember this absolutely. It was my punishment game, says Irreverent Wellington. Clearly, oh god, now this brings it back to me immediately. Oh boy, had the horrible antiquated inventory system from the old Resident Evil games. I think this was your starting out point as well. Yeah, now I remember you. Wasn't there like a quick mode of it where we had to charge through the whole level? Anyway, it was just we have Resident Evil at home. It was not very good. However, I don't recall it being incredibly bad. So go and enjoy your time down in Poor and be grateful that I don't recall much more of you. I was busy making breakfast. I accept your pity ranking for Oblivion. I talked a bit about that ranking. Okay, what about Overwhelm? Overwhelm is a very red and black stylized game about going around an underground-ish area filled with nasties that get progressively nastier. The more you proceed, the harder all of the enemies get, the worse a time you're going to have. Lives are extremely limited. I forget if your ammo was limited. But yes, a very oppressive game. All in all, would have been good, but it had some issues that just absolutely made it an unpleasant experience. I'm putting you down in poor, and looking at your company, I don't feel bad about that. One of the biggest issues with the game is that it was truly unfair. I don't mind hard games, but this game was actually unfair, and there were two main issues for that. One, enemies could teleport right on top of you and kill you. No questions asked, no way of dealing with that. You just die. Secondly, the game would zoom in hard on your character, and there'd be transition areas where you go from one area to the other. You don't get to see past that transition area until you go through it, but the enemies can be on the other side. So you go through and, oh, you've just hit an enemy and died. In a game that's very, very harsh on you, that kind of unfair stuff is just too much to bear. So down in poor it goes, even though it was otherwise quite a good game. Just shouldn't have been so damn unfair. And that's not mad because bad. I've played a lot of games. I know when a game is just pulling BS. And then again, maybe I'm just bitter. Pathologic's terrible. But is it truly awful? If I put Lisa down in truly awful for being intentionally bad, how can I not put Pathologic there as well? It's one of those games that people will say, you just don't get it, do you? Well, you know what? You're right. I don't get it. I think you have to be a certain level of Eastern European to appreciate the horror that Pathologic puts you through, but it's just nasty, and it's not a game that I would wish on many people to play, so get out of here. Exactly, Naffle. You need to be Russian to understand it. I will be many things in my life, but I doubt I will ever be Russian. I am a fake Hungarian who doesn't get it at all. A conversation I quite often have with Hungarians is, naturally, they see me and go, oh, Scotchy. Sometimes they follow up with, are you from Ireland? But never mind that. And they ask me why I'm here. And I say, well, I live here. Why do you live here? And I tell them I think life here is good. And they always give me this strange, incredulous look. Are you feeling okay? Why is life good here? And I have to explain to them that the rest of the world is so busy. Here in Hungary, you can just sit back, grab a palinka, ignore your work, and relax. And the rest of the world has forgotten how to do that. And that explanation usually satisfies them. I have no idea where this conversation was going, but maybe someday they'll make a Hungarian out of me. God knows, Anon. Wait, how is saying someone is a fake is an insult that has to be censored? Well, my censorship should be off. So, heavens knows. Perfect Dark, but we're not actually sussing out Perfect Dark here. We are sussing out Perfect Dark's PC decompilation or recompilation. Perfect Dark is a game that at the time was fairly mind-blowing. If you were a console gamer and you had not experienced the joys of PC gaming, then this is as good as you could really get for console FPS, and it was really good. But that's difficult nowadays because you had to use the bizarre console controls, and I have long maintained that the difficulty in Perfect Dark and GoldenEye was largely attributed to the controls. If only I had good controls, I would demolish those games. Well, it's good to know that I was completely right. Perfect Dark is a massively elevated game when you just have a crisp, clear 60 FPS mouse and keyboard experience. It's really, really good. It's also very nice to play a game from 2000. You play it 24 years later, and you go, wow, this really was just a good game. And now it's not shackled to antiquated controls and hardware. Man, you're good, Perfect Dark. It was a pleasure to play through you again. LOL, I just come back, says Rolling Ninja. Dominion 6 is in the S tier, good man. There was a lengthy self-debate about whether or not to put it in amazing or great, but Dominion 6 wins out. and stands proud with Archipelago, Hitman, and King of the Castle. That said, though, the list is getting pretty bottom-heavy, and it's about to get bottom-heavier. Maybe not quite so with Planet Crafter. Tough one, this. I did a long play of Planet Crafter. It had problems. Did I end up modding away the problems? I forget if I ended up turning to mods during or not during the run. Anyway, the premise is pretty interesting. Have a desolate planet, give it atmosphere, give it breathable air, give it water, just make it hospitable. Pretty winning moves, but it can't help itself with having a massive crafting subset of it, and the crafting is like pulling teeth. It's very manual. You can automate it, but it feels like very manual automation, if that makes any sense. And you get matters for mitigating that pain far too late. By the time you've got bots, not sure you even want them at that point. Anyway, the game is okay. It had real poor and terrible issues with regards to the automating largely, but the theme and the way that it managed to capture what you're doing in the game brings it up a bit, so I'm happy enough putting it in okay. It's just as good as Oblivion. I think you skipped the modding this time. Yeah, I might have had a better experience if I had modded early, but I wanted to give the game a fair shake as it was. I also got its DLC, actually. That arrived in my inbox. I gave it a quick go, and I just immediately thought, yeah, you know what, forget it. I've played enough of this game. I don't want to play anymore. Had a fine enough time, but let it be. Yes, the execution. The execution was fine enough. Yeah, the temptation was heavy. I was feeling a lot of the game's pains. How about Noriba 8? So last year I rated the Exit 8. An anomaly spotting game where all you have to do is keep walking if there are no anomalies, but if there are, you must turn back. Noriba 8 takes that same anomaly spotting and just makes it really rather painful. Which is strange, because it was more or less the same game. Instead of going through the platform, you just have to go through the train wagons themselves. But it's very in your face. Because it's not about spotting the anomalies. The anomalies are going to be very in your face. It's just figuring out how to deal with them. And if you don't figure out how to deal with them, they go, spooky in your face, and then put you back to the start. And you're still none the wiser of how to deal with them. Very much a learn through failure game, but the game itself isn't very fun, so it just ends up being frustrating. Ultimately, it was a pretty poor experience, made all the worse because it took something that was good and just made it considerably worse. So yeah, I look down very poorly on Noriba 8. Bleh to you. The Exit 8 was good. Yeah, Exit 8 was good. Railroute wasn't very good. This is a game that I played in my own time. Very much a German sitting in the dark for days on end, plotting out logistical train routes. I feel really bad about this one. There's a bit of a story behind it. So some of my old colleagues at Paradox ended up breaking off and working for themselves. Good on them. And they were marketing people, and they would work on marketing other games. So they reached out to me going, "Oh, hey Jake, blah blah blah, long time no speak, etc. We're marketing this game. What are your rates?" And I explained I don't really do sponsored content, but for old time's sake, just send me the game. I'll give it a go. And that's why you should never offer favors to people. This was the game, and it wasn't very good. So I never streamed it, even though I said, I'd do something for them. I did not want to play a game on my stream that I didn't like and didn't want to play. So this game challenged my, what's the word? What's that word for things people have? They try not to break them. Principles. Challenged my principles. On the one hand, don't be a jerk to some people you know and like. On the other hand, don't taint your channel with, although it's not sponsored content, someone's asking me to do it and I don't want to do it. Anyway, all that aside, the game isn't very good, so I don't recommend you play it unless you're the kind of person, read German, maybe Austrian, who likes to sit in the dark and play with trains. You don't even see the trains, right? All you're doing is building the routes and managing when the trains dispatch, arriving on time, blah, blah, blah. Just play Transport Tycoon instead. Rain and Respite. Here's another game that I did not stream. I picked up I pick up games on my own time all the time. Believe it or not, I play plenty of games outside of what I stream, as you can see here. And this was one such game. It is a very, very short visual novel. You make precious few choices and nothing really happens. But at the same time, that's part of what's so good about it. It's a short, cheap game that's just meant to capture the feeling of being in a pub and meeting new people, something I do quite a lot, believe it or not. So one of my favorite things to do is just go around and hassle the locals and the visitors in Hungary. Anyway, this captured that, at least a wee bit of it. I don't tend to run into anime girls. There's a giant ogre, there's an elf thief, there's a mage, there's a big titty waitress lady, and there's someone else that came out of nowhere and I didn't understand their jam. Anyway, it's not really very interesting, but it's quite charming and cute, and again, it's very short, so the investment isn't very high. There are precious few scenes or CGs, it's not an aero game, and it's okay. I might even say it's good, but it was far too short to be good. You run through the game, and then if you're a visual novel player, you know this experience. Oh, I need to change what I did. So you go back to the start of the game, you just hold the control button down until you reach the choice, make the different choice, read 3 new lines of dialogue, and then hold control again for another 5 minutes. So, yeah, it's okay, but it's not bad. Cute and charming. You can stop at not an aero game. There are tons of non-aero visual novels. There are a lot of friendship visual novels, believe it or not. I played through Geigetsuka, and that was a friend visual novel. Oh, that was cute. Anyway, this game wasn't cute, ready or not. I came in with one of 2 expectations, and both were dashed. I was interested in, and actually, okay, so Ready or Not is you play as special forces, you go into situations to defuse them if necessary by force, and then rescue people. I thought either this will be a nice, super autistic police force simulator, or it's going to be Payday 2 but in reverse. And I was ready for either of those experiences, and it didn't give me any of them. It was a really boring run and shoot game. We're in a den full of crack houses, so run in, kick down the doors, and kill everybody, whilst giving orders to your other police forces to go and just kill everybody. There wasn't nearly enough standoffishness or even thinking about what I'm doing. Just run in and shoot people. And with that all going on, I was thinking I'd rather just do this in Payday, where I can run in, shoot people, and steal all their stuff and feel a lot better about it. So, yeah, it was not enjoyable at all. Was it bad enough to be terrible, or were my expectations mismanaged? No, it's really terrible, because there's one experience that really stands out for me, and that was where I'd done it, I'd beat the level, okay? The hostages are free, the people are dead, but the game isn't finishing because there was one person inside a cupboard that I didn't see. So I had to methodically go through the entire stage, and it was rather large, kicking open every cupboard door until I finally found them and turned them into fertilizer. And again, no yelling, stand down, we have you surrounded, come out with your hands up. No, it's kick down door and shoot them. So I don't know who this game was made for. Was it well received? I think I refunded the game, so I probably won't find it on my... No, yeah, I definitely refunded that game. Ready or Not, how well received are you? Maybe I didn't even get it on Steam now that I think about it. Apparently it's very positively received, 89% with 165,000 reviews, so I am in the wrong. But that doesn't matter, because I know I'm right. And that's all that matters. Anyway, down you go in Terrible. Maybe I should feel a little bad keeping you next to Nancy Drew in the Model Mysteries and Disgaea 6, but I was very turned off of Ready or Not. Steam players are incapable of being critical, unless there is a media snowstorm. Well, I don't need to concern myself with that. What I need to concern myself is with Rebel Galaxy. This was recommended to me when I was busy playing a lot of Avorion. Hey Jake, you like these space games? Well, no, I don't like them because they're set in space, but sure, let's go with it. Rebel Galaxy is another game where you fly around a spaceship, gather materials, make a better ship, and go and do odd jobs and whatnot. You like economy, right? This game has economy. Well, I'll tell you what, this game has a heap of ass. It was very quickly turned off because it has a naval barrage-style combat that I did not enjoy at all, and it's a space game that's two-dimensional, and that just felt terrible. Why it was even set in space to begin with, I do not know. You're essentially sailing around on a sea, again, doing broadsides against others. Really didn't like the characters, the characterizations, the fetch quests. It was just a bad experience altogether. And I didn't stream this one, played it in my own time. I disagree, says Caffey. Ready or Not is a game with different expectations. 0 hours more like what you would want, closer to SWAT 4. Yeah, I think the SWAT experience was more what I was looking for. So perhaps I mismanaged my expectations, but I still didn't have a good time with the game. I tend to be quite malleable with what I end up with, but that one was bad. The problem is you're not American. Yeah, a problem I'm grateful to wake up to every day. Here's a game that prominently features an American, Resident Evil 4, the 2023 release, not the 2004, I think was the original Resi 4? Might be off here or there. Anyway, Resi 4 was great, but how great? Now, it's not Resident Evil 4 the original. Never could be. And that's always a bit of a problem with these remakes, remasters, and such. You're never going to be judged on your own. You're going to be compared to what you are retreading. Resi 4 does precious little that the original game did not, nor does it really do anything that the remakes of Resident Evil 2 and 3 do, but it did come together to make a very good, well-polished experience. I have no problem putting it up in good. The question is, can I put it in great? And it's been a while since I've played the game, so I'm actually going to open the Steam store to re-evoke memories of the game. I ran it through as a long play on my channel. I don't remember how long ago that was. Resi 4. As is often the case, I really don't like the new writing style in the game, but I think that's more of a prevalent issue across, well, all modern media. That, or it's just me getting too old, and I don't like the way these young people try to tell a story. That, and I like old 90s camp ways of approaching things, right? The game is gorgeous, the gameplay is phenomenally good. I really miss old ugly Ashley and her giant elephant ears. Ada phoned in her performance big style in this one, but the more I look at it, the more I think about it, gotta judge it as the game that it is, and as a game, it was really, really good. Highly enjoyable. Oh, and my man, Luisa Serra. Yeah. If looking at this is evoking such happy, fond memories in me, I can't put it down in good. I can't put it next to Mousecraft, for God's sake. Resi 4 2023 was pretty great. No. It's definitely the writing. Yeah. I have a hard time criticizing writing because I'm not a writer and I'm not a reader. But at the same point, if I'm still feeling like something is deeply wrong with modern media writing, then there probably is, and I imagine the people who are into reading and writing are furious about it, whilst I am merely miffed. Anyway, not furious about Resident Evil 4, although I feel kind of bad about what the remakes are doing for the originals. The originals are still there. I can still play them whenever I want, and I do. What about Reveal? Reveal is not such a happy story. Came in with such a fun premise, but it just went completely off the walls. I won't spoil it just in case you actually want to play through the experience, but why would you? I'll just say that Reveal was really poor, but was it poor to the point of being terrible? It was really just a walking sim through nonsense, and at many points I just wanted the whole experience to end. Yeah, it might even be worse than Gone Home, but it's certainly not better than Gone Home, so I'm not putting you in poor. Reveal was pretty bad, and the reveal wasn't all that great either. Yes, it was Revile, Raster, much better. Rebel Galaxy was released in a sweet spot where the ship action of Assassin's Creed 3, the only good thing about the game, and Black Flag. But I do not play Ubisoft games, so that goes over my head. Have I even ever played an Assassin's Creed game? No, never played an Ass Creed game. No intention of changing that either. Right, RimWorld, but not RimWorld. This is RimWorld Anomaly. Now, as you might have noticed, I'm only rating games here. I am not rating DLCs. That's the rule of doing these tier lists, but a rule is not a rule unless there are exceptions. That is why it is called the exception that proves the rule. And Anomaly is a great example of this because Anomaly is very self-contained in RimWorld, and that is part of why it's getting a rather poor assessment here. I love RimWorld. It is one of my most played games. I'm hard-pressed to say that I've mastered the game, but I'm really, really freaking good at RimWorld. I didn't feel much excitement about playing Anomaly, though. It came out. I was flattered because, whatchamacallem, who's the guys that make RimWorld again? Luden Studios. They actually reached out to me directly and said, DDR Jake, you cover our games, thanks. Here's a free copy of Anomaly. Great, but I don't really, it doesn't capture things I'm into, right? I'm not into SCP-style things. In my own time, though, I fired it up and I beat all of Anomaly. And I was severely underwhelmed, not just because of the content that it had in it. It had content, maybe it was just missed on me, but the game didn't integrate itself well with the rest of the game as the other DLCs do. Everything in Anomaly is about Anomaly, and other than a few craftables that you can make that somewhat just occupy niches that already exist in the game, like getting your Psy Lances and your Shock Lances, bleh. The game wants to make stories that are all about its little SCP things. It wants your characters to go crazy about the Golden Cube. Everyone's going mad about the Golden Cube. It's like, okay, great. Are you going to integrate this into the raid system at all? Or maybe we're going to send it back and make other people unhappy? And no, it's just all about the cube. And also the darkness is coming. The one thing I really enjoyed about RimWorld Anomaly was the darkness. It was really cool to have the whole world flooded with darkness. And then you put up your lights in order to just work around that. But you could just walk through the darkness anyway. It wasn't that big of a deal. That's what I ended up doing, actually. Anyway, I was not impressed with it. I wouldn't say it was terrible. It was all fairly well put together, but the lack of integration and the lack of interest I had in it just puts it down in poor. So, in fact, it's so poor that if I play any more RimWorld, I will have Anomaly disabled because I just don't want to see them again. It's just a one-and-done experience where I'd never be one and done with the children pod raiding in me and eating Molotovs to the face. The poor wee red monkey would beg to disagree, says Pandy. I think about Red the monkey more often than I care to admit, and I'm always sniggering away just thinking what the Countess must have been thinking when she gets her little monkey back. Oh, you know, it's not a big job, just look after Red. He's paralyzed. You don't need to do much other than feed him. And he's missing a leg, he's missing an ear, he's covered in surgical scars. He has burn marks all over his body. What happened to Red the monkey? Love RimWorld, don't love Anomaly. How about Robot Detour? This game was okay. Was it good? Yeah, see, if I put Mousecraft in good, should Robot Detour be good? No, it was okay. It had fairly mind-bending puzzles and an interesting little premise, but I wasn't left feeling like, wow, that was great. It was just, okay, that was a way to spend my time. It's right there next to Lock. I find it very difficult to give particularly good or even particularly bad ratings to puzzle games, because at the end of the day, when I'm done with a game, I don't generally feel more fulfilled than after filling in a crossword on the back of a newspaper. It's just a bit of a time burner. Rare is the puzzle game that comes along and really makes me feel good about it, which is why we often augment it by putting it into the weekly one-shot. Give it some stakes. That way, we can augment how good the game is by adding in that time pressure and the pressure of punishment game to follow, which could be even more horrible puzzle games. Ronin. Ronin was okay. No problem with it. Nothing particularly bad or good about it that comes to mind. It was a bit frustrating at times, but also cathartic at others. I really don't have much to say about it outside of that. Kind of Gunpoint-like. I seem to recall one particular point of the game that just ground me down, but I'd rather play Katana Zero than Ronin, but I'd rather play Katana Zero than a lot of games, so enjoy your just okays. Rune Factory 4. I've streamed this game before, twice in fact, and I still fired it up again this year in my own time so that I could absolutely fill Amber full of our children whilst contemplating a side piece with Dolce. Difficult choices to be made in that game. I wonder if Forte is the only lassie now that I haven't courted. No, I've definitely courted her. But have I filled her full of my Earthmate offspring? Anyway, Rune Factory 4 is a fantasy Harvest Moon game. If you haven't played Harvest Moon, then I don't know where to help you at this point. You raise crops, there's also combat, there's a lot of magic, it's very anime, full of tropes, and it is one of my favorite games of all time, let alone deserving of amazing on our list here. I love Rune Factory 4, it is the pinnacle of the series. It's all the more hilarious to see that Rune Factory 5 was so bad in the series, but we covered that last time. Shoe Pie for life, says Zingus, who just loves the Chinese, it seems. Shoe Pie's a bit, you know, useless. Anyway, I love Rune Factory 4. I have spoken many times about how much I love that game, and I give it yet another run through this year. One thing I'll say about the game is that there's a lot of depth to it that's not immediately apparent, especially with the crafting. And you need to scratch a lot of tisms to max out the crafting in the game, which can be very useful for doing the end game challenges. But it's also a game where you don't have to know or even care about that. You can just play it at your own pace and have a very cozy time. I think people get turned off by the aesthetics of the game and the fact that Stardew is around, but I don't like Stardew, and I love Rune Factory. Rusted Moss. Did I really play you this year? Could have sworn you were last year. Anyway, you're going and haven't played enough, because I haven't played enough. It's a game with rope physics, and I played it and went, ooh, these rope physics are interesting, pretty tricky to get the hang of. Maybe I should play more of it, even though it's it appeared to be a Metroidvania. But I did not play more of it. I still kind of want to, but I have a lot of games. I play a lot of games. And I can't admit to have found the game so interesting that I'm quick to jump back to, especially since I think I played this game in January and then did not play more of it. Still, it goes in there because, indeed, I haven't played more of it. I've certainly played too much of Rusty's Retirement. Does Jake have a Switch? Yes, I do. I have not played many games on the Switch because why would I? I'm not 5 years old. I think my Switch has been used to play WarioWare and the other WarioWare, and Rune Factory 4 before it came on PC, and not much else. But yes, I do have a Switch. That, I think, is the last of the consoles I have. I have a PlayStation 4, but frankly, that needs to find a new home. I adore playing the Switch on bed. No, I don't want to take game consoles into bed. That's how I fall asleep on them. Rusty's Retirement. More of an application than a game. It just sits on your toolbar, and it's an idle game. You just have this little junkyard place, and you grow crops and make money and buy new things and hire some people to help you out. Not my kind of game. I don't think it was particularly well made. It's not enticing, doesn't look that good. It's just a poor game overall, but if you like that kind of thing, just something picking away in your corner, then great, but I like my experiences more hands-on, like with Magic Research 2. Slice and Dice. I felt a twinge of guilt about this one. Bane has done so much for me, and then he gives me a weekly one-shot, and I think within 7 minutes I have it thrown aside going, this game is trash, I'm going to play something else. So after that, I came back to the game in my own time thinking maybe you were a bit too quick on the trigger there. I know it looked like ass, but give it a second chance. And I did, and it simply galvanized my approach. This game is pretty bloody awful. I don't like it at all. I'm not sure if it quite deserves being down in terrible alongside the likes of Nancy Drew and Medieval Dynasty, but I will put it down in poor. My stance for these games is if it's not as good as Slay the Spire, why even bother? And this game, the music was hideous and ill-adjusted, the visuals were really bad, I did not enjoy the rolling dice mechanic, the animations were just awful, and the visual clarity of the information was just down in the gutter. I did a whole run-through of it and still didn't feel any change on those opinions. So, yeah, down you go there. I do not like Slice or Dice. It's one of my favorite games, LOL, says Get Busy Living 37. Well, one man's trash, another man's treasure. Me not liking these games does not in any way impact your ability to get your hands on and enjoy them. Someone out there loves Graveyard Keeper, and that someone is made of sterner stuff than me. Speaking of people made of stern stuff, Still Wakes the Deep. It is very rare that you find accurate presentations of Scots in media. We tend to come in two flavors. Either we are William Wallace or we are Austin Powers' fat bastard. Seldom is there the in-between, but this is the perfect in-between. I have never seen better depiction of Scots, as in never seen more accurate depiction of Scots. I suppose there is the Scotsman from Samurai Jack. He is up there. He is absolutely up there. In fact, he might even still be better than Still Wakes the Deep. But that is a cartoon, and these are video games. Still Wakes the Deep, you're on an oil rig, you hit an anomaly, everything hits the fan. But during that, you have largely Scottish individuals trying to keep the place operational. It's just a walking simulator, but it's so good. So good. But how good is it? Rennick's the most polite Scottish boss. He's a great fella. You might be the height of something on the mainland, but here, I am the king. I cannot in good conscience put it down in good. It deserves to be up in great. Maybe because it's a walking sim. Never seen a walking sim just be so damn good at what it does. There's always so much in the game to poke your nose in. It's really interesting to see an oil rig depicted on a game as well as it does. Now, I've never been on an oil rig, but the family certainly has. So I've had plenty of second-hand stories from it, and this matches up with what I've been told. So yes, up you go there, Still Wakes the Deep. If you haven't played it, well, you're in luck. It's not a game you even have to play. You can just load up one of those no commentary full runs of the game and watch it. You'll get essentially the same experience. I can't help but feel that if that becomes too prevalent, it's going to become a problem in terms of game copywriting. But until that day, just enjoy it. But if you want to play it, more power to you. Great game. Definitely in good company up there in the great segment. You'll see plenty of oil rig in Rust. Rennick's oil rig. It was the best oil rig in the North Sea. Well, there was one that exploded in Elgin. Stranded Zero. Oh Christ, I played you very early on in the year. You could make a good point for haven't played enough of this game. I only played it for, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes, and it was just, what if RimWorld wasn't any good? And that's your experience there. I could easily put it in poor, I could easily put it in haven't played enough, but I know I'm never going to come back to it, so it could be in either of these. Frankly, it doesn't matter. I think I'll just leave it in haven't played enough and just not play it again. Was not enamored with that game at all. Here's another game that I was not enamored with. Take Me to the Dungeon. Another erotic game. So you get isekai'd into fantasy world, and then you meet this harlot who is surprisingly enamored with you. You go dungeon diving, you invariably eventually die. There are erotic scenes, although if that's your idea of erotic, more power to you. And it's very stale, and it's just not very good or enjoyable. Go down, grind your way through, invest your points in being able to grind further through the dungeon. Yeah, I didn't enjoy this. Was it poor or was it terrible? I'm going to check the Steam page again. I'm not going to show it on stream because then I'm going to have to edit it out because of problems. That's doubtlessly going to... What, I didn't refund this game? Okay. Take Me to the... What do you mean I played 2 hours of this game? That doesn't sound right. Yeah, it's got that Slay the Spire card getting, choose your own path thing, and once again, if it's not as good as Slay the Spire, why bother? I guess the artwork might be appealing to some people. It's certainly clean, but no, get me away from this. The less I recall about you, the better. You were not a fun game. Take Me to the Dungeon. Also, the writing was really bad. How bad? Nah, I'm going to put you down in terrible. Just did not like you one bit. Is it bad or is it bad compared to other Steam lewd games? Ooh. That can be a tough call, but I don't get most of my lewd games off of Steam. Right, here's another Shilla art game, The Closing Shift. Now, Shilla's art also did Night Security, which was good, but The Closing Shift was terrible. The only real question is, was it truly awful? And I would say yes, it was. It's a shame, right? They're clearly wanting to make something, express something, but what they just expressed with this was liquid ass. You're just working in a coffee shop, preparing people's orders, having to remember them and constantly check the board that's in another room was not very enjoyable. Kind of actually came to the gas station in terms of busy work that you have to do in a game. It bugged out on me, so I had to redo a day because of a dancing guy that softlocked the game, and there was no payoff whatsoever. Oh man, it didn't even build up a good creepy vibe, so when it tried to get some payoff for it, which it still failed at, it all fell flat. You are stalked and die, the end. Okay, thank you, Chilla. My eyes are opened. Sadly, my eyes were also open when I played through the Corpse Man. Yet another. Hey, what if we have to Slay the Spire and make it not any good? I think this is another game I got shilled directly into my inbox. I was a little bit interested because the premise of the game is things die, you tear them apart, and then you use those parts to craft your own fursona. And I thought, well, that could be interesting. Kind of do a Dungeon Meshi style, build my own best creature. But in reality, it's just, oh, you have a lion's paw, so you get the lion paw scratch attack, and it's not very good, and you're going to pick up other attack cards along the way anyway. Add to that the unskippable cutscenes, the deviant art style paper doll artwork. It was just really, really bloody terrible, and I don't want to look at it ever again, so I won't. The Norp Analog is another idle game, and it's not very good. And I don't have much to say about that because it's an idle game that isn't very good. There are hundreds of those, most likely. The Invisible Hand is another game that's not very good. I was brought into this game because I thought, ooh, stock market manipulating, money-making, underhanded actions, that's all very good. But it's really just a vehicle for delivering some incredibly cynical and poorly written writing. The manipulation doesn't feel very good, it's very surface level. Lobby to say water bad, water cheap, pick up cheap water, lobby water good, sell water, water good, water money make. God, it was... I don't think it was terrible, but it was certainly a poor game. Another game that I played in my own time and did not stream. Here's a game I did stream, though, The Stairway 7. I like Norp quite decently for the genre. Okay, I did not. Again, they're going to be measured against this game, Magic Research 2. And Magic Research 2 is such a chef kiss in the incremental genre. Stairway 7. It was pretty good, but it died on its arse in the ending. I think it's going to go in just okay. I was playing through the game in my mind. I really liked the paranoia that set in whilst going up the stairs, checking everything. You know what? For that alone, I'm going to put it up to good. It was very good at making me feel seeping dread and paranoia. Kind of on a similar level of Observation 7, but with higher highs and lower lows, because the ending, again, was really, really bad. It had jump scares, but I think the jump scares were quite good, actually, because it wasn't out of nowhere, it was jump spooking you for your failure, and that is good. Well, it's as good as a jump scare could be, really. Yeah, you were good. How top or bottom heavy is this? Okay, no, this is pretty heavy down at the bottom. The windows are gone. Oh, this game had so much promise, and it just dropped it all. So I'm a sucker for that PlayStation 1, early PlayStation 1 art style, with the whole jagged lack of anti-aliasing, and, you know, you look at a surface that's constantly twitching. Very poor detail on the character models, accentuate the horror feeling. Make no mistake, this is meant to be a horror game. A lot of holes in it. Like your wife died in a crash, but you're dreaming about it, and your coping mechanism is to buy a freaking house that you're dreaming of and move there. Okay, great. If we can set that aside, you've got a creepy neighbor coming around. There's a woman walking around on the walls for some reason. Okay, fine. The big moment in the game is that suddenly the walls and the doors are disappearing, and that was a great moment. I went through to the kitchen, suddenly noticed the door to the backyard is gone. And when I returned to the living room, one of the windows was gone. I was like, ooh, this is quite nice. But then it plays its cards too quickly. All of a sudden, everything is gone, and you're trapped in the basement, and oh god, there's jam coming out of the walls. And then you're in this weird alternate dimension where there's nothing but pillars in the room, and then the game soft-locked on me, with no saves, so it was back to square one, and I binned the game. So I watched the rest on a YouTube video. Turns out I was minutes away from the ending, and the ending was absolute trash. What a shame, because the game had amazing setup. Oh my days, if it hadn't dropped the ending, this would be up in good or maybe even great. But it did drop it. It dropped it hard. Not so hard that I'm going to forget all the good that it did, but it was still a poor experience overall because it just got that heavily marred. Sounded like someone wanted to do myhouse.wad, but failed. In the middle of our street, my house. Speaking of games that fail, here's Witcher. Witcher is terrible. Really, really freaking terrible. This is the first Witcher, not the third one. Was there even a second one? I don't know. I'm not into those kinds of games. But yeah, playing as Geralt, his moody old sod going around doing fetch quests for every asshole in the neighborhood. It's a single-player World of Warcraft, I guess. Go and kill 10 of these things and bring me their hides, and then maybe we can get busy under the bed sheets. I didn't play much of the game because it was a punishment game, but I played enough to know that it was just awful. I'd say The Witcher 1 is just very dated to play now. I liked Witcher 1 so much, says Vanillis. Perhaps, could you play it again now and use a critical eye? Would you still say that you like it a lot? A poor man's Henry. Yeah, give me Kingdom Come Deliverance any day of the week. I know there's 20 years between the games, but that doesn't make this game any better. Oh boy, here's another game. Oh, yeah, we're filling up the bottom ranks now. This War of Mine. I know a lot of people love it. I'm not one of those people, and even though I love the developer's other game, Frostpunk, that doesn't mean I love this. This game, I would say in 2 words, is just misery porn, which is not my kind of jam. It's just a game you play to feel bad. Everything in the game is tailor-made to make you feel bad. I want to engage with the mechanics and win, while you should feel bad about that. Okay, great. I'm going to not do the feel bad things. Well, you're going to suffer anyway, and you're going to feel bad for it. What a miserable bloody game it was. Do everything right and still be told that you're a monster. At least Frostpunk 1 doesn't bash you over the head with it as much. It does do quite a lot of bashing. But this is a hint, if ever there was one, that the Frostpunk people, 11-bit, love the smell of their own farts, right? They can make a good experience. Frostpunk 1 is evidence of that. But my goodness, they want to seal the room and breathe it all in because they really think that what they crap out is gold dust. Me, I am not entirely agreeing, and this War of Mine, okay, it appears to have been critically well received, but I am not everybody. I am me. And I don't like it. Here's a game I kinda like, though. And not just because of her thighs. It's Toho Hero Ice Fairy starring Cherno. Also, thank you, Valorant. And also Acronymus for all the festive subbing going on there. Buy yourself some tinners. Oh, now there's an idea. I actually didn't do any kind of proper Christmas food shopping. I guess I will treat myself to something once the shops reopen on the 27th. Because I like to do a good bit of Christmas cooking, but if I'm going to be streaming, when am I going to do the cooking? So I got no problem just doing it days later. I'm not a child. I don't need to worry about it being on exactly the right day. It's more Valorant. What is Valorant anyway? I keep hearing this name. Is it a game? Maybe I'm better off not knowing. Okay, right. Toho Ice Fairy. I played this game not too long ago. It is a bullet hell, but you kind of run and jump around rather than fly around. I enjoyed the game. I thought it was good. How good did I think it was? Once again, life will be made easier if I check it out on Steam. No, do not take me to the dungeon. Take me to the Toho, the hero of Ice Fairy. That's a clown piece, right? Yeah, you know, I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this game a fair bit. It was short, it was simple, but it was also cute. Music was all right. Plus, it had Marissa, and if there's one thing I'm a sucker for, it's women in big hats. Some say that hat gets larger every time she says a racial slur. Anyway, get out of here. We're going to put this right onto good because, yes, I did enjoy this game. Up you go. Right, UFO 50. Not only are you amazing, you're going right over here because you are my game of the year. I cannot praise UFO 50 enough because I praise it just about every time I stream and it's still not enough. It is so good. It is a product I never imagined could exist today. But it does. It is a culmination of many years of love and passion for retro games, and yet they're made in a way that is accessible and appreciable in the modern day. It's huge on variety, they're very well thought out, they look great, they sound amazing, and there are so many of them. There are some stinkers here. I wouldn't be caught dead golding, let alone getting a cherry on Combat Ants, but for every Combat Ants and oh Christ, what is it called again? What's that first one? Not Balatro, that's a different game altogether. Anyway, there are bad games in it, for me, but they're also great games. A better example would have been Onion Delivery. Oh, what a nightmare. But then there's Party House, and there's Night Manor. Hell, there's even Disgaea. Barbuta, that's, oh god. I actually cherried Barbuta. More out of spite than anything else. Amazing game. Check it out, play it, it's so good. If you put any faith in the opinions I have on games, let it be this. UFO 50 is a masterpiece of a game. But you might still not like it, and that's okay, because this is definitely made for a certain kind of person. Anyway, so good. I have streamed it. I've actually streamed every UFO 50 game. Some of them only for a few seconds, because I had to do this as a weekly one-shot. Great game. Truly great. Oh god, here's the one that started off a lot of the ass around here. Vampire Survivors. I don't like you. I really don't like you. I don't like your passive nature of gameplay. I don't like the esoteric nature of how you advance in the game. I do not like your meta progression. I don't like your art style. There's nothing I really like about this game. I can't put it into truly awful because I have to acknowledge a lot of that is just me saying that I don't like it. It's not actively painful in the way that these are, but I really do not like Vampire Survivor. It's not even new. This kind of game was already out and existing, but it's the one that goes by storm. I guess that stands to reason. We call them Doom clones and not Wolfenstein clones after all, but yeah, get out of my face, Vampire Survivor. Oh god, here's another game that needs to get out of my face. Victoria 3. So I got Victoria 3 on release. I probably got an email from Paradox back when they used to mail me games and DLCs they released. Maybe I've been put on the blacklist, and those exist. Or maybe they just don't care about me anymore. Who's to say? Point is, I've had Victoria 3 for a while. I fired it up for half an hour or so, playing as Brazil, and I went, okay, definitely got that new Paradox game smell to it. You know, nothing's ironed out, it's got obvious bugs that should have been caught pre-release, but they just need to squeeze it out in time. Performance isn't that great. We'll let it cook. And I did let it cook. I let it cook for 2 years before I took it out of the oven, gave it a smell, and went, this has a new Paradox smell to it. You know, it's got these bugs in it that really should have been fixed, and the performance is pretty bad. It's kind of lacking in features and development and flavor. And I went, hold on, didn't I just think this 2 years ago? Yeah, 2 years has not been enough for Victoria 3. It really needs to cook. Maybe not longer, but better. And that's frustrating because I sat down and played Victoria 3 for about 100 hours. I played as Australia, I played as island nation in Africa, Madagascar. But it's not that, it's the Marina Kingdom. And I played as Lubeck. The Lubeck game far and away went the longest. I own almost the entire world. I will eventually finish it off with a world conquest just to see how the game acts when you directly control everything rather. Yeah, and I think a couple of nights I was up until 4 or 7 a.m. still playing it. Number go up is a dangerous drug. But the game still isn't very good, despite all of that. The premise is good. Victoria 3 is one of those games I love to think about playing. But playing it is quite actively painful. The performance is bad. The market has a lot of quirks to it that constantly make you frustrated. Local goods, market access. I'll build these ports, but I won't actually get the infrastructure, so people won't work there, so I'm stuck in a catch-22. The combat is beyond defendable. My front has split, so everything I've taken just instantly gets taken back, and my army will teleport to the other side of the world for some reason. Okay. Every unit needs a boat. Oh, okay, great. Horrible, just horrible. And yet, number go up so good. Tricky. Can I have a different rating for the game hasn't played itself enough? It's tough because I could honestly put it anywhere from amazing to truly awful. But where would Victoria 3 go? I think for now I'm going to put it into poor. It has some great things, but the things that are bad are so indefensible, especially after 2 years of work. So probably what's going to happen is Victoria 3 will sit aside for another 2 years, and I will come back to it in the hopes that they have been ironed out. It did make you want to research and play more. Yeah, it did. But it's so bad, it's bad. No, has a lot of great things, has a lot of bad things. The bad outnumbers the good. It's the opposite of... I'm sure I'd use that as a reason to put somewhere up here. The last Vicky 3 game I had, I managed to conquer 30% of a province. Yep. Oh yeah, that's frustrating as well. Anyway, lots of problems with Victoria 3. Please fix them. I will be happy to come back once they are fixed. I really played Void Stranger this year and not last year. I even remember streaming this thing. I'm going to have to check my numbers here. Void Stranger was streamed, wow, in April. It actually won the long play vote if my own numbers are to be believed here. Void Stranger is fantastic. Just brilliant. I played through it, a normal run, get to the end, hear that fun song at the end, all is well. And I said, I don't want to go through it all again, because you go back to the very start and you have to go through it all. But I did play more of this game in my free time. It is it is an extremely meta game. Well, I suppose you could find out everything in the game, but good bloody luck doing that. A lot of brains... What I had fun was going through and reading a lot of discussions about this game where people are getting together, trying to figure things out together. That's very much a product of its time, and it was good to kind of be there to see it. I didn't really want to engage in it because, you know, let others do the work and let me just reap the benefits. That's why I'm a streamer, you see. What I'm getting at, though, is that even though it's a Sokuban game, a game or a genre that I'm not particularly enamored with, it is a very good Sokuban game. And all these extra bits to it, of which I haven't even seen all of them, are so good. Its presentation is amazing. The Game Boy style visuals and soundtrack are just so good. It's overflowing with content, tons of puzzles, and then the puzzles can be taken in different ways because there are all these weird relics that you unlock through deeply esoteric ways that give you new ways to tackle puzzles and also ways to quickly advance through puzzles you've already done. I'm talking quite vaguely about a lot of stuff here because if you are in any way interested in the concept of Void Stranger, I would encourage you not to listen to anything else about the game and just play it. Highly recommend the game, and yet it is only in good and not great. I'm actively debating with myself about that one. I certainly think it's better than Dave the Diver and Frostpunk 2, but is it as good as Magic Research and Still Wakes the Deep? I'm inclined to say yes. Yes, it is. Great game. All right, running out of games on our list here. Volcano Princess. Volcano Princess is okay, and it is nothing more than okay. It's quite simplistic. It's quite a simplistic take on the Princess Maker series, genre, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't do anything particularly good, but it doesn't do anything particularly bad. If anything, it slightly overstays its welcome. I was getting to the point where I wish the game was about 30% shorter, but it certainly wasn't poor, it just certainly wasn't good. So over there you go, little Rita. The English made it feel homely, that it did. What about Wedding Witch? Despite the appearance, not an erotic game, but with all the Germans going awooga awooga in chat at the time, you would have thought it was. It was a very heartfelt tale about a woman going off, getting married, and wanting to make a bouquet for it. But the horndog Germans in chat just wanted to drag this game through the dirt for it. Anyway, that aside, it's not a very good game. It's just another Vampire Survivors, rather cheaply made 2.5D experience with it. I did not particularly enjoy it. It was a little bit charming, but overall just bleh. Add you to the lengthy pile of Vampire Survivor clones that are just clogging up this poor rating. Was this an erotic game or not? There was certainly a lot of stripping involved. Witch's Rhythm Puzzle. I saw this and I was hungering for a rhythm game, so I gave it a go, and it's not very good. It's just tap button to the beat. Very simplistic, kind of quasi-Tetris-like, because you need to make full lines, but there are some odd rules about when to tap and when not to. But the story is virtually non-existent. The artwork is also virtually non-existent. It was just poor. God knows what this was made for. It wasn't made for me. Oh, now this feels like a game that was made for me, but I wasn't made for it. Soviet Republic Workers and Resources, or the other way around. And I've already put it in the right place to begin with. I have not played this game enough, which is horrific, because I've played this game for hours and hours, and I still couldn't break through. There's just so much to learn, so much to understand, and I really feel like if you break through and you get a grip on the game, it's probably the best city builder in existence. Because having to manage your steel imports or production, your concrete mixing, your road laying, your road upgrading requiring bypasses to operate, oh, it was so good. Other city builders just step aside. No place for skylines here. But the barrier to entry was too high for me. I played it for so many hours, I read so many guides, at the best I could build a road. And it was a painful process to do so. So yeah, in this case, communists win, I lose. I really think I'm losing out on an excellent game, but my patience had been tried and tested and extinguished. I don't think I can play any more of this game. It's really sad. I really wanted to get into it. Maybe someday I'll sit down, be dissatisfied with the current state of city builders and think, maybe you should give Soviet Builder one more try. But whew, funny thing is, Baron von Own, he was able to pierce through this game and come to its understanding. But me, I could not. Have you played A-Train? I know you've recommended A-Train, but no, I have not. Yoke Heroes, a long tamago. That is not its Japanese term, but I forget what it is. Anyway, Yoke Heroes is a very interesting game that I just picked up on a whim because I looked at it and went, ooh, Game Boy game, good enough, I'll pick it up. Sometimes I do just pick up games like that. Sometimes I sit on games for a decade, unsure if I want to pick them up, even if they're free. But Yoke Heroes I did pick up. The best way to describe this game is that it is an idle Tamagotchi game. You have a little egg, the egg sprouts a little androgynous elf. You must raise the elf by, you feed them, you bathe them, you train them, and then once the little elf has grown up, it calls it an elf, but it really just looks like a little human urchin. They then go out on adventures, and the adventures just plod along, and then occasionally there is an encounter, and it plays out itself. It's not very hands-on. It's a very hands-off game, in fact. The kind of game where you would just have it on your monitor, and you would look over every now and then thinking, time to give the little runt a bath because he's too smelly, or, I want him to actually become a mage, so let's give him some intelligent books to read and a brand new staff. You can play the game hands-on. There are two ways to do it. One is that you do have like key pressing, like press X to the beat to advance this thing faster. So you could hands-off have an adventure going for an hour, or you could hands-on have it done in 5 minutes. Or if even that is too much, what I did was I opened up Cheat Editor, grabbed the game's execution, and just said set speed to 20x. And that worked out just fine for me as well. I beat the game, but then you can New Game Plus it a lot. There are whole new adventures to go on. The writing is very sarcastic and kind of witty, and I highly recommend it. The game is good. It's not great because you don't really do much beyond that. It's just too hands-off to really activate my almonds. But I'm happy putting it up in good, and sometimes I recommend a game on good more than I recommend it on great, and that would be a case with Yoke Heroes here. If you miss Tamagotchis, check out Yoke Heroes. That's definitely going to be a niche recommendation. Recht. You have to win the game. I did win the game. You know what this game is? This game is Rage Bait, and I have very little patience for Rage Bait. You made one mistake? Well, go back to the start of the game and do it all over again. If you want to play a game like this, play Super Meat Boy instead. Hell, play I Want to Be the Guy or I Want to Be the Boshi. Just don't play You Have to Win the Game. It does have that really old kind of Amiga style to it, if that's your jam, but it's not my jam, so just get down there and let's never speak of you again. Here's a game that I don't want to speak of, at least for another 10 years or so, Project Zomboid. Oh, my days. Over the years, I've had so many YouTube comments. Zomboid, check out Zomboid. You love State of Decay. Oh, you're gonna love Zomboid. Ignore the fact that it's an early access, Jake. So many other fully released games are nowhere near the state of Zomboid. The reason I played Zomboid was because there are some people who exact power over what I do beyond anything you unwashed maggots could ever dream of, and they did highly recommend that I do finally check out Zomboid, and I will take that person's word at face value. I did. Unfortunately, they were quite wrong on their assessment. I really think Zomboid is not in a state for enjoyment. I did not like it. There's certainly promise there, but the fact that it's already had 11 odd years of work and is still just unpolished bloat tells me it's probably never going to be in a state of a game that I'd want to play. Besides, there are already better experiences for me, like Rogue Survivor or State of Decay. I don't think I could quite put it down in terrible. Poor seems fitting for it. It is a poor game. Although I have heard Unstable Build 42 finally came out, I am not interested. I will revisit this game when it is fully released, and it better be a damn sight more polished than it is today. Let's not talk about that naffle. It's still sore. Disgaea PC. So, hang on, you were here, but Disgaea 6 was an aeon ago? Okay. Disgaea PC. It's a re-release of the original Disgaea, which came out in the PlayStation 2. I didn't play that. I played the PSP release, which was functionally the same. Anyway, this is the one that started the whole series. It's still great. It's certainly antiquated, and it can be a little painful to play, especially with all the grinding. But it is the only Disgaea game, in my opinion, that actually has a touching storyline. Everything else is just anime nonsense, and whilst this is certainly anime nonsense, it certainly plucks my heartstrings. It also prominently features Flawn, my beloved. Anyway, you started it all. You are good. You're not so great because you have since been beaten mechanically, and you do certainly feel dated, but I do love me Disgaea. I fired it up after I was reminding myself how bad Disgaea 6 was, and yeah, even the first game is head and shoulders above this nonsense. Starwing. Did I stream you? Maybe I streamed you, but I definitely played you this year. I really like Starwing. Old, ancient game, showing off the Super FX chip for the Super Nintendo. You're another good game. You could debate endlessly whether or not Star Fox 64, aka Lilat Wars, is the better game or not, but we're having 30-year-old debates here. Let's just put it in good and leave it at that. Yes, and then there's Scarface. I'd almost forgotten about you, because you're not on Steam, and when I checked my... when I was making this list, I of course checked everything I played on Steam. I checked all my emulators for recently played games, and I also checked everything that I streamed on YouTube. But of course, Scarface wasn't there because it was delisted due to DMCA, so I almost forgot you. But I added you minutes before I went live because I suddenly remembered, hey, didn't we have Tony Montana somewhere? Yeah, I'll get there, Anazu, don't you worry. So, Scarface is a game that I hyped up, perhaps a little too much, because in retrospect, after playing it through, the things I thought were good were not as good as they are, and the things that I knew were annoying were actually worse than they were. I still really like the economic drug-dealing game in Scarface, but you have to do it so many times, so very repetitively. And whilst there are a lot of funny voice lines in the game, hearing them over and over, they get a little more grating. Although I still laugh at "You've got big feet for a lady" being one of Tony Montana's pickup lines. Anyway, overall, I actually reassess this game as poor. If I hadn't replayed it and I was just told to rate it blindly, I'd put it up as good or great. But overall, I can't in good conscience put it much higher. Yeah, the original soundtrack is fantastic, no doubt about that. But in retrospect, you die so very easily. There's a lot of grinding for money in the game. The missions are extremely uninspired. The writing is just so juvenile in the game. I actually went onto the cutting room floor to see what was cut out of Scarface. Turns out a ton of things were. There was going to be a whole lot of missions revolving around dealing with pirates out in the Caribbean, and the voice lines are still intact in the game from it. I went through and listened to them. Good thing they did. It was very ill-fitting. I don't want to risk adding in an image for Lemmings here, because what if it gets rid of all of these? Because I do actually want to take a proper screenshot of this and reminisce when all is said and done. But if you want to think about it, let's say we had Lemmings 1 in our hand. Lemmings 1 is okay. Severely dated. Some of the puzzles are far too precise and you lack the controls for precision on them. It's okay. And Lemmings 2 is also okay, because what it improves, it also loses. It adds a bit too much, and it just doesn't have that sharpness that Lemmings 1 has, so I'd put them both in as okay. Placement might be a foregone conclusion, but you're missing Slay the Spire. Ahaha. I'm not rating a game if it has already been rated. And last year, Slay the Spire was here, and I would be surprised if it wasn't in Amazing. Might not have been in Amazing, though. Hang on, don't I have a way of checking that right now? Being the fool that I am, I didn't take a screenshot of it now, did I? And of course it doesn't all fit on screen, does it? Okay, for some reason it's not loading now, is it? I'm just trying to remind myself of where I put it on last year's list. According to it, Slay the Spire was only in Great, not in Amazing. Would I reassess that? That's tough. Probably not. When I look at the amazing games I have here, Slay the Spire really this good? Really? I don't think so. I certainly get a lot of enjoyment out of it. But enjoyment is a very hard to quantify thing. Yeah, I don't think I could put it in. Wasn't it Game of Your Year? No. UFO 50 is certainly my Game of the Year this year. Okay, that's a lot, and we'll go through it from top to bottom in case you missed any of them or you don't recognize what there is, or if it's too small on your screen, but I'll need a drink first. Ah, boy. So at the very top, my absolute Game of the Year, UFO 50. Again, it is so good. I don't think it's on a very steep sale right now because it's a fairly recent release, but it's just amazing. Archipelago, it's a pain to set up, but it is truly amazing. And Archipelago is more of an idea than an individual game, but that is fine, I'm still putting it up there. Dominion 6 might not be a vast improvement over 5, but it's still the best Dominions around. The Dominions itself is amazing. Hitman World of Assassination was so good, and I played so much of that early on in this year. Haven't played it for a while, but the memories are still fond. Certainly played King of the Castle recently. It's certainly amazing, and Rune Factory 4 is probably one of my top 5 games ever. I love it so much. Up in Great, there's 20 minutes till dawn, 7 days till die, Dragon Dogma 2, it's a lot of numbers, the Escape Academy Hollow Cure, Magic Research, which is best in slot for incremental games, Perfect Dark the PC recompilation, Resident Evil 4 2023 or 24? I don't know, the recent Resident Evil 4 remaster. Still Wakes the Deep and Void Stranger, The Good Games, Awaria, Beat Hazard 3, Broforce. Scottish Chester comes in saying, I'm new to this channel, some interesting choices I totally agree with, some I don't. The vibe and feel of the channel appeals to me, so I'm following. Also, season's greetings to everyone here. However, you choose to spend the period. Well, I'll choose to spend my period asking, far ye fae, Scottish Chester? Circle Empires, a rare RTS, rating quite highly. Cobalt Core, Dave the Diver, a difficult one to put in good, but there it is. Factory Town Idol, another unexpected high one. Frostpunk 2, no one would have expected so many games to outrank it on the year that comes out for me, but there it is. The Gremlins 2, just as good as Frostpunk 2. Hard Time, just as good as Frostpunk 2. Hector, just as good as Frostpunk 2. Okay, that joke has worn away its welcome. Mousecraft, Night Security, Observation Duty 7, and I will play more of these games in the series. The Stairway 7, Toho, Hero Ice Fairy, Yoke Heroes, Disgaea PC, and Starwing. If you're a colonial and morbidly obese, this game was called Star Fox, where you came out. Don't know why they changed the name in the PAL version. Amphi Glasgow, or 10 minutes outside to be totally accurate. Hey, Dark Young, your sister signed up. Okay, and yes, just okay. A Highland Song is there, Ape Escape is there, a Ranger is there. This is hard to see, but that's Badlands, the arcade game from the 80s, I believe. Star Fox was trademarked in Europe. Same issue for Lilat Wars. I'll believe that. Same issue, I suppose, with Biohazard into Resident Evil. Cats arranged nicely. Dungeon Munchies. Tom Clancy's Endwar, Into the Breach, Garmazoo. Lock Digital, Love Choice, Oblivion, Planet Crafter, One Night Stand, Rain and Respite, Robot Detour, Ronin, and Volcano Princess. They're all just okay. That sounds so sad, right? But there's nothing wrong with being just okay. Okay things serve to accentuate the great, and they serve to really cast down the poor. Nothing bad about being just okay. I've not played enough of Rusted Moss, Stranded Alien Dawn, or Workers and Resources Soviet Republic. Will I ever, though? Of the three of them, it's most likely that I play more of Rusted Moss. There'll come a point where I start thinking about Worms Armageddon, how much I love the rope physics, and then I go, hey, I know a rope physics game. And then I'll play Rusted Moss. Starting in with the poor games, though. Academia School Simulator is pretty damn poor. So was Ancestors, absolutely was Boneraiser Minions and Brotato. And Deity Empires, Delta V Rings of Saturn, Eastward, Glover, Halo 2, although I don't have much love for the other Halos either, Karate Survivor, Lobotomy Corporation, Monmusu Gladiator, Nancy Drew in Blackmore Manor, and Nancy Drew in The Phantom of Venice, previously hailed as good in Nancython, Outbreak Nightmare Chronicles, Overwhelm, Railroute, Rimworld Anomaly, Rusty's Retirement, Slice and Dice, The Norp Analog, The Invisible Hand, The Windows Are Gone, The Victoria 3, Wedding Witch, Witch Rhythm Puzzle, Project Zomboid, and Scarface. They're all poor. They're not all equally poor, but everyone has to fit in somewhere on my tier lists. We're not making a new special tier for every game. All these bad Nancy games. Oh, I'm under a good impression that I've not yet played the worst, young. Terrible games. Alchemia is terrible. Cookie Clicker is terrible. Disgaea 6 is absolutely terrible. Factory Town, Fears to Fathom, Glory and Miserable Survivors, I think is the name of that. Gonna have to double check. Yes, Glory and Miserable Survivors. Nice when a game gives you a hint as to what it is. Gone Home, it's 6 random characters in a single floor dungeon. That's the whole game, is the title of that game. Lamalana MSX, Lethal Company, Lifeline, Medieval Dynasty. Another Nancy Drew game with The Secret of Shadow Ranch. Another Nancy Drew game with The Model Mysteries. Noriba 8, also known as Platform 8. Ready or Not, Rebel Galaxy, Reveal, Take Me to the Dungeon, The Corpse Men, The Witcher, This War of Mine, Vampire Survivors, and You Have to Win the Game. And then the truly awful. I try to keep this one thinned down because just saying everything is awful loses a lot of meaning, just like saying everything is amazing. Let me think, 6 in amazing with 8 in awful? I'll buy that. It did overall feel like lower quality games this year than last, but I'm not about to do a tier listing of all my tier lists just yet. Gas Station Simulator is just a busy work and chore simulator that has no fun in it whatsoever. Graveyard Keeper is a rare individual in the truly awful list in that there are actually good things about the game, but they are so covered in oftentimes literal donkey turds that it slipped into being just awful. Graveyard Shift is bad from toe to toe. Lisa is an intentionally awful game, so well done. You achieved your goal. Toy Story is a monstrously bad action platform for the Super Nintendo. Nancy Drew in the Midnight of Salem is the worst Nancy Drew I have played to date. Might need to invent a new tier if I ever play the Bohemia Nancy Drew. Pathologic, I am not Russian enough to appreciate this game. And Chilla's Art, The Closing Shift. The worst Chilla's Art I've ever played, and one of the worst horror games I've ever played. Funny, we got 2 horror games right beside each other here and truly awful. Maybe even 3 or 4. Prague will welcome you. I don't want to go to Prague. Alright, how many games is that in total? I'd say about 115 or so. I didn't count, but that seems about right. Not the number I'd want it to be at, so that's about a game every 3 days. Given that I played almost no games in December, still doesn't feel good enough. I'd like to get that number up to 150 or so, but that's what 2025 will be for. Would you rather be sent to Detroit? No, I'm not going to win the Rustler Burgers prize, thank you very much. Oh man, yeah. So I played a lot of bad games, that's fine, because that only accentuates how good the good games are this year. It's also a nice reminder, I can't believe it's been so long since I fired up Hitman, World of Assassination. And I can't believe it's been almost a week since King of the Castle. We'll definitely be having more of this on Saturday, with our new factions and our VIPs having to defend their VIP title, because they will be ousted for whoever the winning faction is in this one. And it might even be me. Anything's possible. If it's not on the list, Finellis, it probably didn't happen. To my mind, the only things I forgot on this list are the Lemmings 1 and 2. Isn't the Tony Montana game in the list, or did I miss it? Right here is Scarface. I love my cool new winter badge, but you better hold on to it. Okay, that's our lot for the tier listing. Last time I did this, I also shared a lot of interesting numbers from the YouTube analytics, but there's nothing really interesting there. It's a lot of the same trend, just following through. We're all getting older, you know how it is. Cataracts forming, hairline receding, follicles dying, bones calcifying. So let's not do more critical emotional damage to ourselves, especially at this time of year. Let's instead have our traditional Christmas giveaway. I love marble races, haven't done them in a long time, so we're going to dig that out. But the catch here is thus. When you win in the marble race, I will typically gift you any game of your desire. You may only be gifted a game if it appeared here on the tier list. I don't care if it's truly awful Gas Station Simulator you want, or if you want to finally understand the joy of baby making with Forte in Rune Factory 4. You're on a limited list here. Maybe you want Wedding Witch. Maybe you're going to challenge me to find a copy of Toy Story for you. Well, I'll tell you that's not happening. Any case, let's get the marbles fired up. I do not have them at the ready, so I better fix that right now.